Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 27, A Hospitable Host. This scorpion tail attack by Black Scale Scorpion was simply too insidious. Even someone as tough as the Beholder King felt its soul tremble, causing it to howl in agony. He wildly attacked his surroundings, and the icebergs nearby were smashed and sent flying everywhere. At the same time, a hint of blood flowed down from its single golden eye. We have a chance. The Black Scale Scorpion was overjoyed. Quick, let's go. The three six-eyed golden eye lions, which knew exactly what a Beholder King was, roared furiously. I will kill you all. The Beholder King howled with rage, and his bloody golden eye suddenly blasted out with more than 10 rays of red light. While fleeing towards the exit, one of the three six-eyed golden eye lions directly grabbed the Black Scale Scorpion and dragged him towards the exit. The four magical beasts were the last to enter the exit. After they charged into the 9th floor, they could hear a thundering sound on the 8th floor. We finally made it into the 9th floor. Linley, Desri, Fane, and the others had already arrived in the 9th floor before them, and were waiting for the three six-eyed golden eye lions and the Black Scale Scorpion to enter. The 11 experts reunited, everyone looked at each other, a hint of a smile on their faces. Although we didn't acquire any divine artifacts, all of us made it safely through to the 9th floor. This is already a very lucky thing. Fane chuckled. Whew. That was really quite frightening. For once, Rosary revealed her true thoughts. Fortunately, the Beholder King's attention was focused on Olivier, giving us a chance to charge in. Right. The Beholder King hadn't actually begun to use his real power at all. Soul Freezer is only one of his most basic attacks. Someone capable of becoming a king amongst beholders has immeasurably great power. We were all very lucky. A six-eyed golden eye lion sighed as well. Although the final attack by the Black Scale Scorpion was powerful, it was at most capable of injuring the Beholder King, not killing him. We are lucky. Lucky to have had Olivier. Desri grinned as he looked at Olivier. Everyone couldn't help but look at Olivier as well. Olivier still maintained his silence. Amongst these experts, Olivier really did not speak very often. Olivier, how is it that you were fine after having suffered the Soul Freezer attack? A six-eyed golden eye lion asked curiously. Olivier hesitated a moment, then said just a few words. I do not know either. They didn't ask him any further. Regardless of whether he was telling the truth or not, it wouldn't be polite to press him. Everyone, be careful. This 9th floor's danger level is most likely no lower than that of the 8th floors. Desri spoke. We can't always hope to be as lucky as we were just now. Linley's group nodded. Nobody minded the fact that they had been unable to gain the divine artifact of the 8th floor. Actually, compared to divine artifacts, the true goal of the people here was divine sparks. But divine sparks would only appear on the 11th floor. As for the 12th floor, Linley didn't even dare to think about it. According to what Beirut had said, only upon reaching the deity level did one have the ability to protect oneself in the 12th floor. Everyone's true goal was to make it to the 11th floor soon, without suffering any more casualties. This 9th floor seems to be quite mysterious. Linley stared at the environment of the 9th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. Linley and the others saw a turbid blue ocean beneath them, with roiling blue waves stretching off into the endless horizons. Here, in the 9th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, aside from the endless sea, there was only a secluded little green island not too far away. Everyone, be careful. After we pass through this floor, we'll be able to rest and prepare to enter the 11th floor. This floor is the most difficult barrier to reaching the 11th floor. Tulali said solemnly. Everyone stared carefully at the surrounding area. Although this was only the 9th floor, and the 10th floor would come after this, Linley's group knew that every 5 floors made up a level of difficulty, and the 10th floor would be much less dangerous than the 6th through 9th floors. Nobody considered the 10th floor to be hard to pass through. They only treated it as a place to rest and prepare. It was much like how the 5th floor hadn't been a hard place to pass through. There's nothing but the endless oceans around us. Rosary frowned. There's no tall constructions. I expect there's only one possible location for the exit to the 10th floor. That place. Rosary pointed at the distant island. The tunnel to the 10th floor should be on that island. Linley nodded to himself. After all, aside from the island, there was nothing here besides the sea. If the exit was placed in the endless depths of the ocean, how long would it take them to even just search for it? Linley believed that the almighty sovereign who designed this necropolis of the gods wouldn't do such a thing. Let's head out. Desri spoke. The 11 experts simultaneously flew towards the distant island, all of them extremely cautious. If they could pass through this 9th floor, then, entering the 11th floor and acquiring a divine spark would be only a stone's throw away. Nobody wanted to fail on this floor. The island was very quiet. Linley and the rest of the 11 experts landed on the beach. Splash, splash. The ocean waves gently rolled into the edges of the beach. The waves would occasionally cover the beach, and occasionally retreat back into the sea. The ocean breeze blew gently, rustling the tall trees, flowers, and grass of the island. What a peaceful place. Rosary revealed a smile on her face. It is quite pretty. Linley's group couldn't sense any danger here on the 9th floor at all. Go find the exit. Fane laughed. The 11 experts moved towards the interior of the island, beginning to search carefully for the exit to the 10th floor within this place. This island was quite beautiful, and there was even a small mountain in the center of the island. After a long time, the 11 experts climbed onto the mountain. We visited all the other places on the island. The exit should be in the mountain. Linley raised his head to stare at the winding mountain trail. The mountain trail was quite meandering, but Linley's group moved very fast, passing through the mountain and the trees like a breezy wind. Soon, they reached the top of the mountain, but as the 11 experts descended upon the top of the mountain, they were all stunned. In the center of this island, atop the mountain, next to a dwarf tree, there was a wooden house. In front of the wooden house, there was a stone table and a stone chair. A handsome, pale-skinned young man dressed in clothes made from leaves and wearing a straw hat was currently sitting on the stone chair. He was enjoying a cup of tea. This scene was very peaceful, but Linley's group all felt a sense of danger in their hearts. Someone had suddenly appeared here in the 9th floor. Without question. This pale-skinned youngster wearing a straw hat was the creature blocking them here in the 9th floor. Humans, magical beasts, and a draconian. The youngster's blue eyes glanced at the 11 experts, and his lips curved upwards in a slight, graceful smile. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Louis Luyi. Don't be too nervous, everyone. I don't have any ill intentions towards you. You can all sit down and have a chat with me. There are stone seats over there. Not too far away, there really were a row of stone seats, but the stone seats were all covered with a layer of dust. Who is this youngster? Linley felt curious. Are the seats too dirty? The youngster waved his hand, and a gentle gust of wind arose, lifting up those stone seats, then depositing them in front of Linley's group. The dust on all of the seats had been blown away. The youngster revealed a brilliant smile. Now you can all sit. What game is this youngster playing? Linley and the others felt confused. Ever since they had entered the necropolis of the gods, Linley and his gang had never encountered as strange as this. Linley's group exchanged glances. Is there perhaps some problem with the seats? Linley used his spiritual energy to sense them, but the stone seats seemed to be nothing more than ordinary stone seats. Sit. The six-eyed golden lions immediately leapt over and crouched on the stone seats. Linley, Desri, and the others sat down as well. Everyone, let's act according to the situation. If this strange youngster uses some tricks against us, we definitely won't hold back against him. Desri said mentally to the other experts. The 11 experts were in total accord. The straw hat wearing youngster, Lewis, seemed extremely happy. Lewis' clear gaze swept Linley's group, a hint of mist actually appearing in his eyes. Ever since I was captured and put here in the Necropolis of the gods, it has been a very, very long time since I have had the chance to speak with other living creatures. This place is so quiet, it might as well be a graveyard. Lewis' eyes had a hint of hatred in them. Nobody else here. No people to talk with. Even the ocean doesn't have so much as a single fish. A dead sea. A lifeless, dead sea. No birds on the island and no animals either. No life at all. Just like a graveyard. Fortunately, you finally came. Lewis' face revealed a hint of a smile. The 11 experts all felt rather shocked. What is this youngster intending? Lewis laughed loudly. I know well why you have all come to the Necropolis of the gods. Don't overanalyze it. I can tell you right now that I am the obstacle you must overcome on the 9th floor. But I am different from the other guardians. I won't kill you. Linley and the other 10 experts felt puzzled. Won't kill? But the prerequisite is that you not try to enter the 10th floor. Lewis added. Lewis smiled as he spoke. I hope you can stay here and chat with me. You won't enter the 10th floor, and I won't attack you. Wouldn't that be wonderful? When the time comes, you will naturally be allowed to leave the Necropolis of the gods. Stay and chat with him. Linley and the other experts somewhat understood. This youngster actually had a plan like this. Linley's group was still fairly happy at meeting this sort of obstacle on the 9th floor. At least the opponent wasn't like the flame tyrant, constantly chasing after and trying to kill them. However, to have them all stay here and accompany the youngster wearing a straw hat and wait for the 10-year period to come to an end. This was indeed something Linley's group couldn't accept. How about this? I'll stay here and chat with the youngster, while the rest of you enter the 10th floor. Perhaps this youngster will agree. Desri suddenly mentally transmitted to the other 10 experts. Clearly, Desri had decided to sacrifice his own chances. After all, for this youngster to be put here on the 9th floor meant that his power was definitely not as simple as he appeared to be. Linley, Fane, and BB all looked at Desri. Lewis. The black scale scorpion, who had been silent this entire time, suddenly spoke. If I was willing to stay here and keep you company until the 10 years are up, would you allow my 10 other friends to enter the 10th floor? The sudden words of the black scale scorpion caused Linley's group to be extremely surprised. Cannot. The youngster frowned. I hope you won't force me to act. You won't enter the 10th floor, and I won't kill you, but if you attempt to enter, then I will be forced to choose to kill you all. HRM. Linley and the others frowned. I've discovered the exit staircase. Rosarie's surprised, excited voice rang out in the minds of Linley, Fane, and the other experts. The exit staircase to the 10th floor is within the woods behind that wooden house. From my location, I can see 3 steps of the staircase and that black glow. The staircase to the exit. Linley and the others all felt surprise and joy in their hearts. Hearing that the location of the staircase had been discovered, they couldn't help but occasionally glance in that direction as well. Oh, you finally noticed the exit. The youngster smiled. What is your decision? Will you fight with me, or will you spend a few peaceful days here alongside me? Swish. Linley, Fane, and the others all rose at the same time. Smiling, Desri said, Lewis, we don't want to fight you. We hope you can let us pass. The straw hat wearing youngster, Lewis, continued to smile. But the rage that had lain silent in his heart for thousands of years was already beginning to rise. He secretly cursed to himself in anger, these lowly humans really don't know what's good for them. I wanted to trick them into staying here, then secretly steal their souls. But now, it seems. Linley and the rest of the 11 experts were on their guard, ready to act at any time. Bang! The body of Lewis suddenly exploded, sending grass and straw everywhere. A silver light blasted out from Lewis' exploding body, immediately striking towards the person nearest to him, Tulili. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 28, Thorium Devil. Seeing this ray of silver light shoot towards him, Tulili's face turned cold, and his right hand, grasping the hilt of his scimitar, moved. A bloody scimitar flash split the air. Bang! The bloody scimitar shadow collided with the silver light, and with an fierce, angry howl, the silver light retreated at high speed, smashing straight through the wooden house, which collapsed. The ray of silver light only came to a halt at the exit to the 10th floor. What is this? Linley and the others could now clearly see what the silver light actually was. The silver light was far from them, but it was formed into a glob of silver-colored liquid ball. And then, the silver liquid's body suddenly transformed into the figure of a person. Only, his body naturally formed a set of silver battle armor atop of it. A thorium devil. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions felt shock in their hearts. This transformed Lewis glanced coldly at Tulili. Snorting coldly, he said, I didn't expect that a human who was only at the saint level would be able to develop a destruction-type attack. Destruction-type attack, Linley understood. The reason why Tulili had been acknowledged as the prime saint with the most powerful attack was because, Tulili trained in destruction-type attacks. In the countless planes, the most exalted and most powerful existences were that of the 4 overgods who had created the 4 higher planes. The 4 overgods included the overgod of life, the overgod of fate, and the overgod of death, each of which had passed down their own special techniques and training methods. These were, respectively, life magic, oracular magic, and necromantic magic. As for the 4th overgod, the overgod of destruction, the overgod of destruction hadn't passed down any training methods. The way of destruction was one of constant slaughter and constantly attuning to the nature of destruction. It inherently had to rely on one's own ability to understand it, and there was no path which one could be guided towards. It wasn't like understanding the other laws, which were regulated into various systems. Although Tulili had gained insights in the way of destruction, he had only understood the tiniest bit of it. The voice of a 6-eyed golden Ni lion rang out in the minds of Linley and the others. Everyone, be careful. This monster is an extremely dangerous creature from the demonic realm of darkness known as the Thorium Devil. Thorium Devil. Linley's heart shook as soon as he heard the name. He had never heard of a Thorium Devil, but Linley knew that there was an extremely rare material that was used in blacksmithing, thorium. Thorium was exceedingly precious, because it was highly elastic and capable of alloying and bonding together with a vast variety of different materials. Since this monster is known as the Thorium Devil, could it be that his body is formed out of thorium? Linley stared carefully at the flowing silver liquid. The body of the Thorium Devil is made out of thorium. In addition, it should be thorium of a fairly high class. Thorium is highly elastic, allowing thorium devils to easily transform into all sorts of shapes, and they bond easily with other materials as well. Earth, fire, water, and wind law attacks, unless ridiculously strong, are completely incapable of harming him. The 6-eyed golden Ni lions transmitted this information to the others. In the 7 paths of earth, fire, wind, water, lightning, light, and darkness, these 7 basic, common paths, only lightning is capable of harming him. But of course, the techniques stemming from the 4 overgods, being oracular magic, necromantic magic, life magic, and the way of destruction, are also able to harm him. The faces of Linley and the others changed. They understood that nothing was absolute. If one's attack power in earth, fire, water, or wind-type elemental law attack was high enough, it would still be able to kill this Thorium Devil. But Would Linley's attack cause the thorium devil to reach its endurance limit? His endurance limit? Linley wasn't confident. Just based on the liquid body of the opponent alone, Linley understood something. Most likely, the purely physical myriad swords converge attack is completely useless against it, but the profound truths of the earth might have some effect. Faced against this thorium devil he had never encountered before, Linley didn't feel much confidence either. Fane, Tulili, this time, we'll have to rely on you too. Desri's voice rang out in the minds of Fane and Tulili. Actually, this entire time, the others were exchanging glances with each other. Everyone knew what the other was thinking. This battle rested on Fane and Tulili's shoulders. No matter what, don't let this thorium devil surround you with his body. Once he does, the situation would probably be even more dangerous than Queen Mother Lachapel surrounding you with her tendrils. The six-eyed golden Ni lions reminded mentally. In terms of age, as the ancestors of gold mane mastiffs, blue-eyed tiger mastiffs, and guardian Ni lions, these three six-eyed golden Ni lions were comparable to the high priest. In terms of experience, the three six-eyed golden Ni lions, having entered the Gabado's planar prison, knew much more than even the war god or the high priest about the various powerful, mystical creatures from the many planes of the universe. Leave it to us. Fane and Tulili transformed into blurred bolts of lightning. All of you, die. The thorium devil, Lewis, smiled coldly. His body suddenly transformed into an extremely large cloth, which transformed to become over 100 meters long and wrapped down towards Linley and the other experts. The bolt of lightning that was Tulili struck out with his scimitar. The bloody scimitar once more flashed into the sky, but the thorium cloth suddenly split open, and Tulili's attack passed through the opening. Bang! Fane's sword struck out. This sword attack of his actually gave birth to a large amount of coiling lightning serpents, which swirled around the sword as it pierced towards the thorium cloth. The thorium cloth once more used the same technique, tearing a hole into itself, wanting to dodge Fane's sword in such a manner. The sword missed, but the large amount of lightning serpents coiling around it, as though they were alive, shot out wildly in every direction at high speed. The many suddenly attacking serpents were simply too fast. The thorium devil didn't manage to dodge in time, and a large number of lightning serpents struck the cloth. Bang! Ah! A pain-filled growl rang out, and many holes appeared where the lightning serpents had struck. But the thorium devil's cloth body quickly repaired itself, and the thorium cloth descended towards Linley and the others. Linley was wielding his adamantine heavy sword. This is the right moment. Linley's dark golden eyes suddenly flashed with an explosive light, and the adamantine heavy sword in his hand, seemingly slow but actually fast, gracefully swung towards the thorium devil. The thorium devil didn't try to dodge. The thorium devil had no fear of earth-type attacks at all. Linley's adamantine heavy sword landed against the thorium cloth. And a powerful vibration directly transmitted into it from the adamantine heavy sword. In an instant, it charged towards the center of the thorium cloth. The attacks of the profound truth of the earth were all straight-line attacks. In the past, when Linley had dueled Hatesun at Mt to Jiao, the strike of his sword had actually tunneled a hole directly through the mountain. Linley's face suddenly changed. Indeed, the profound truths of the earth was not very effective against this sort of flexible liquid which could transform freely. Haha, what an unusual attack. Even my body felt a bit of a tremor, ah. The cloth thorium devil suddenly let out a pain scream, and the cloth suddenly retracted at high speed, instantly returning to the exit and transforming into human form. The thorium devil stared with astonishment at the three six-eyed golden Ni lions. Just then, it hadn't been just Linley who had attacked the cloth. Even Bibi and the six-eyed golden Ni lions had attacked as well. All of you train in the way of destruction as well. The thorium devil found it very hard to believe this, because the way of destruction could not be taught, only learned on one's own. Others would be able to at most provide some general guidance. Amongst saints, one would rarely see even a single practitioner of the way of destruction out of 100 saints. But in these 11 experts, it wasn't just Tulili who trained in the way of destruction, even those 3 six-eyed creatures did so as well. What, are we not allowed? The leader of the six-eyed golden Ni lion stared at the thorium devil. Linley and the others had never known what type of attack the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions utilized. From start to finish, the only technique they had seen the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions use was imprisonment. Only now did they learn that the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were actually the same as Tulili, practitioners of the way of destruction. The thorium devil raised its head and let out a wild howl. Rumble. The distant, boundless sea suddenly rose up, and countless amounts of sea water began to flow towards the little island. The sea water suddenly began to rise, covering and surrounding the entire island, and then countless amounts of sea water came crashing down from the skies above. What in the world? Desri, Linley, Bibi, and the others couldn't understand it at all. Not good. Tulili, attack together. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions simultaneously transformed into 3 blurs. Tulili transformed into a blur as well, and the man and the 3 magical beasts, all 4 of them experts in the way of destruction, simultaneously launched their most powerful attacks towards the thorium devil. The 6-eyed golden Ni lions had a set of black battle armor on their bodies, and the sharp claws of the 6-eyed golden Ni lion emanated auras of destruction from their claws, with the auras alone creating rips in the air. Tulili's scimitar remained in its sheath, not yet coming out. HRMPH, the thorium devil sneered coldly, then suddenly increased in size 100-fold, becoming a thorium giant that was hundreds of meters tall. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions increased in size as well, tearing down at the thorium devil with claws the size of a house. The powerful destructive energy tore at the body of the thorium devil, causing several massive holes to appear on its gigantic form. A bloody scimitar flash, over 100 meters long, directly chopped the thorium giant into 2 halves. A pity. It's useless. The thorium devil's body instantly reformed. That's not right. How could the thorium making up his body not be reduced at all? The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were greatly shocked. Destruction-type attacks were capable of badly injuring the essence of a thorium devil. With a few consecutive strikes, it was capable of causing a thorium devil to perish. But the combination attack by the 3 brothers and Tulili hadn't resulted in the thorium devil weakening at all. Haha, in the past, I might have feared you. However, I now have a pearl of life. The thorium devil, Lewis, raised his head to the skies, laughing loudly. And then, he opened his mouth, swallowing the vast amount of seawater hanging in the air above them directly into his stomach. The thorium devil itself was only the size of a normal human. His transformation into a giant that was hundreds of meters high was actually just a layer of thorium with a hollow inside. The vast amount of seawater swallowed by the thorium devil actually began to fuse with it, becoming one with it. Beat it. The thorium devil waved his arm. His arm actually transformed into a blade edge, attacking so quickly that not even the 6-eyed golden Ni lion was able to dodge, and the Ni lion was sent flying. The layer of black armor on the body of the 6-eyed golden Ni lion was now shining, but it had successfully blocked this attack. Despite that, the 6-eyed golden Ni lion still had a hint of blood at the corner of his mouth. Not good. Another 6-eyed golden Ni lion called out. Quick, run. Thorium devils had extremely powerful bonding abilities. It could bond with water, with earth, with metals, all of which would produce different results. In the middle of this boundless ocean world, the thorium devil was extremely powerful in his current state. But as everyone was fleeing, a single person charged towards the thorium devil instead. It was Fane. Fane transformed into a bolt of lightning, charging towards the thorium devil. How could the thorium devil, which like the Queen Mother had a pearl of life, care about the pesky little fellow? Feign. The frantically fleeing group suddenly came to a halt, turning their heads to stare. A shocking sight appeared before them. When Fein's sword struck out, the entire world seemed to be filled with a boundless thundering noise, and hundreds on thousands of enormous dragons formed from lightning bolts suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Those countless thunderbolt dragons bellowed with anger, wrapping themselves around that thorium devil. F***ck off. The thorium devil was livid. Bang! The hundreds of thunderbolt dragons suddenly exploded at the same time. Crackle crackle. Countless bolts of lightning flew directly into the body of the thorium devil, and the thorium which made up the thorium devil's body, under the penetrating attack of the lightning, quickly began to deplete. The thorium devil's body began to shudder, while at the same time, he emitted an agonized screech. In but the blink of an eye, his entire body disintegrated, with only a nearly translucent ball falling down from the air. Fein, hovering in mid-air, suddenly collapsed as well, powerless. Fein. Linley and the others immediately flew forward to catch Fein, while Desri immediately snatched the pearl of life. Desri then immediately flew towards Fein's side. Fein, are you all right? Quick, take this pearl of life into your body. Fein's face was extremely pale, but he still managed to squeeze out a laugh. Desri, do you remember in the past how you told me how powerful your forbidden level spells were? This technique of mine, Lightning Dragon's Descent, is even more powerful than the forbidden level lightning style spell, Kiloton Thunderclap, right? Powerful. Powerful. Desri nodded repeatedly. Soon, the color of Fein's face began to improve. He laughed as he insulted, that thorium devil truly was an idiot. My lightning style was his nemesis to begin with, and he actually chose to fuse with water? Water only heightens the power of lightning. Didn't he know that? He was asking to die. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 29, Abyssal Blade Demon. Haha, in the air above the island, the experts all began to laugh loudly. Desri laughed and mocked, Fein, that thorium devil, Lewis, possessed a pearl of life. He thought you would only be able to injure him at most. Of course he didn't mind you, but the power of your ultimate attack, a saint-level warrior, actually exceeded forbidden-level spells. Thus, that poor fellow died, just like that. Tulali began to laugh as well. The experts were all extremely happy to have killed that thorium devil. That meant they could easily enter the 10th floor, which definitely wouldn't be too dangerous. After dealing with the creatures of the 10th floor, they would be able to quietly prepare to enter the 11th floor. Once they succeeded, the divine spark would be theirs. With this pearl of life, our chances for success on the 11th floor will have increased. Fein looked at the pearl of life in his hands, delighted. He immediately bounded with blood, and the pearl of life absorbed that drop of blood like a sponge, then directly merged with Fein's body. Feeling the swirling life energy in his body, Fein felt extremely confident. Does everyone want to rest? Or shall we head directly to the 10th floor? Desri glanced at everyone else. No need to rest. The only one injured in our battle with the thorium devil was Fein. Tulali laughed. Everyone looked at Fein, who laughed and said, just then, the injury I sustained was fairly heavy, but I'm already in good shape now. Let's go. It is just the 10th floor. It won't be too dangerous. In truth, right now, Fein wasn't in perfect condition. Although the Pearl of Life had already returned his body to peak condition, after executing the Lightning Dragon's Descent technique, a great deal of spiritual energy had been consumed, which this Pearl of Life could not replenish. However, Fein didn't mind. They were only going to the 10th floor, after all. Before entering the 10th floor, everyone carefully searched the area to see if any other divine artifacts were present. But the result of their search was that, Success on the 9th floor's only reward was this Pearl of Life. To saint-level combatants, the importance of a Pearl of Life was indeed greater than an ordinary divine artifacts. The 10th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. 11 experts appeared in the middle of the air of the 10th floor. The environment's not bad. Linley laughed as he glanced at the surrounding area. After dealing with the creatures of the 10th floor, we can have a good rest and make some preparations. Whether or not we'll be able to get a divine spark will depend on how we perform on the 11th floor. Desri chortled. The group of experts all scanned their surroundings. This was a beautiful grassland, covered with a boundless sea of green grass, with occasionally a few wildflowers growing in clusters. The clear, fresh air also was quite comfortable to everyone. Where are the creatures of the 10th floor? Rosary was searching intently. Don't bother searching. A six-eyed golden Ni lion said. Let's go search for the exit to the 11th floor. Perhaps the creature will be there. Let's find the exit, then dispose of the creature. Everyone will be able to have a good rest then and prepare for the final battle. Success or failure, it all rides on this. The experts all nodded, and then began carefully searching this great grassland. This grassland actually wasn't completely flat, and actually had some rolling hills. Those depressions might be hiding a powerful creature, or perhaps the exit. If they didn't fly close while inspecting, they wouldn't be able to find it. Look! Bibi cried out in surprise and joy. There's a stone pillar up front, and it seems there is an exit beneath the pillar. The experts immediately flew over. The stone pillar was roughly 3 meters in diameter and 20 meters tall. It seemed very ancient and plain. No one could guess how long it had been there for. It was carved with many mystic runes. Beneath the pillar, there was an entrance to a tunnel, and from the outside, one could see a set of stairs that glowed with a dark aura. Right here. The experts felt their hearts calm down. Having found this tunnel, if they continued through it, they would arrive at the 11th floor. Swish! Suddenly, a brilliant light flashed across the grasslands, flying out at high speed. This flash of light charged towards the nearest person, Fane. The 11 experts had never relaxed their vigilance, and upon seeing that flash, everyone knew what it was. The creature on the 10th floor had finally arrived. HRMPH when this flash of light reached a few meters from Fane, Fane immediately flew backwards like a bolt of lightning. Fane's speed was the fastest amongst these 11 experts, with only Desri and Bibi a match for him. However, clang! Weapons intersected. Fane was knocked flying backwards, doing a somersault in mid-air as he landed on the ground. His face was slightly pale, and there was a hint of blood at the corner of his mouth. Only, the Pearl of Life in his body activated, almost instantly restoring his body to peak condition. What is that? Linley and the other experts were next to Fane. The 11 experts all stared at the creature which had suddenly appeared. This creature's entire body seemed to reflect its surroundings. Its body was entirely formed from metal, but this metal seemed to be like steel that had been reforged 100 times over. Like a sharp blade, it reflected its surroundings like a mirror, except it was slightly more blurry than a mirror. It was human in shape, 2 meters tall, completely made out of metal. On its forehead, there was a single horn that looked like a sharp knife. His shoulders also had sharp knives atop it, and his arms and legs were all sharp blades, and both the front and back sides of his arms had sharpened edges. Without question, a kick of this creature's legs or a swipe of its arms would be like a broadsword striking down. Even its hands and its fingers were sharp, edged blades. On its back, there was one blade after another running down its spine as well. Its entire body is made of blades. Leg, hand, arm, the top of his head, even his back has a blade. Bibi sighed in amazement. Absolutely a war machine. Tulali spoke as well. Fane said in a low voice, "Everyone, be careful. This blade-covered monstrosity is extremely fast, A match for me. When that blade of his chopped down against me, the power of the blow was definitely enough to badly injure us. Linley, most likely even your defense would find it hard to take that blow. Everyone understood. Fane was extremely powerful, but he was still knocked flying by that blade, with a hint of blood appearing in his mouth. Although the 10th floor is simple, that's still only comparison to the 6th through 9th floors. Linley understood. Although this monster is powerful, compared to the Queen Mother, the Flame Tyrant, the Beholder King, and the Thorium Devil, it is much weaker. Although it seemed like the Thorium Devil had been killed easily, if it weren't for the fact that Fane had been the perfect counter to it, the Thorium Devil, capable of fusing with the earth, with fire, with water, or with the wind and gain different powers, definitely wasn't something the likes of Linley were able to destroy. This monster in front of them seemed fairly powerful. But in truth, any one of the 11 experts, if going all out, could dispose of it. Grr. The blade monstrosity in front of them growled softly, staring death at Linley's group, but perhaps he could sense that the power of these 11 experts combined was far beyond what he could overcome. Thus, he didn't dare to attack rashly. This is an abyssal blade demon. One of the six-eyed golden Ni lions said. Abyssal blade demon. Linley and the others all looked at the six-eyed golden Ni lion in confusion. The six-eyed golden Ni lion nodded. In the countless planes, the 4 higher planes and the 7 divine realms are the most powerful 11 planes. Aside from these 11 dimensions, there are some other unique planes as well, which aren't weaker than them in power. For example, the abyss. The abyssal plane is reputed to be the most chaotic, anarchic plane in all of the universe, and the plane with the most warfare and slaughter. The six-eyed golden Ni lion sighed. Linley was secretly surprised as he heard this. The most chaotic? With the most slaughter? He could completely imagine how terrifying this abyss was. Abyssal blade demons are one of the creatures which the abyss has given birth to. The six-eyed golden Ni lion said. Abyssal blade demons, in the abyss, are the lowest level of life form, much like ants in the Yulon continent. They are extremely weak and powerless. Linley and these other experts all maintained their silence. This abyssal blade demons was no weaker than them. But in the legendary abyss, it was the weakest type of creature. Generally speaking, only deities dare to travel to the abyss from other planes. Saint-level abyssal blade demons naturally are the weakest creatures there. The six-eyed golden Ni lion said. Abyssal blade demons are mostly born for slaughter. Linley's group secretly nodded. They all saw how the body of this abyssal blade demon in front of them was constructed. Wasn't it indeed created for slaughter? Every single part of its body could transform into a murderous weapon. Abyssal blade demons are as fast as lightning, and possess incomparably powerful attacks. Their body, being made from special metals, have quite impressive defense as well. Naturally, if we fight at full strength, we can still kill this abyssal blade demon. The six-eyed golden Ni lion said. The six-eyed golden Ni lion spoke in quite a casual manner, clearly not worried about this abyssal blade demon in front of them at all. The abyssal blade demon looked cautiously at the group of experts in front of it, and then, swish! The abyssal blade demon actually fled. But just as the abyssal blade demon fled, BB moved. A flashing light was speeding across the grasslands, with BB behind in hot pursuit. The two actually had comparable speed, but then the abyssal blade demon suddenly charged underground. Shkree! BB excitedly dug into the ground as well. It shouldn't be hard for BB to dispose of this abyssal blade demon, given his power. Linley was still quite confident in BB's abilities. The shadow-shaped doppelganger technique alone would guarantee his survival, and in addition, BB had definitely received some tutelage while at Beirut's side. The abyss, Tulali said in a soft voice. If in my lifetime, I were to have the chance to experience the abyss, I would die happy. Desri and the others looked at Tulali, chuckling. No rush. If we are to leave immediately, we'd still only be able to go to the 4 higher planes for now. Desri said. In addition, I expect that the passage from one plane to another is most likely extremely difficult. I imagine the battles in the higher planes would already be enough to satisfy you. Tulili nodded slightly. Desri, Tulili, Linley, and all the others understood. In their ordinary, material plane, as saints, they were indeed the most powerful creatures in existence. But upon arriving in the higher planes, saints would be the lowest rung in the ladder, and after them would be the demigods, who most likely were nothing more than average. Thus, they held back and were in no rush to go to the higher planes. Boom! A massive earthquake erupted underground, causing the ground to split open, creating a massive crevice. The experts all stared down through the massive crevice. Linley laughed. The abyssal blade demon died. Bibi flew out from within that crevice, dragging with him a metallic corpse that had been ripped in half. It was the abyssal blade demon. This abyssal blade demon's attack truly is powerful. Bibi sighed in amazement. Most likely if I had been hit by him, even I would have been injured. The experts were all secretly amazed. Bibi was a god-eater rat. Although he was still in his growth period, his defense was already extremely, astonishingly high. If even Bibi said such a thing, then one could imagine how powerful the abyssal blade demon's attack truly was. The blades on the back of the abyssal blade demon are fine weapons. A 6-eyed golden eye lion sighed in praise. The abyssal blade demon's body naturally generates powerful blades from its essence, but the most powerful blade is the one on its back. Right. That blade is extremely sharp. Bibi pulled out and tossed that blade to everyone. This rather beautiful, graceful killing weapon lay there on the ground, and the surrounding grass was actually torn apart, just by the sharp aura emanating from this killing weapon. The sharpness of the weapon was comparable to low-level divine artifacts. It truly was incredible. Who wants this blade? Bibi said. I don't need it. My claws are fiercer. Bibi waved his little paws. Linley and Olivier didn't say anything. They already had their own weapons. Desri and Rosary were Grand Mega Saints and didn't need it either. Fane was a sword expert, not a blade expert. As for the magical beasts, their sharp claws were not suited for holding swords. Although this blade was very precious and comparable to a weak divine artifact, and could be gifted to family or friends even if one didn't use it for oneself, Linley, Fane, Rosary, and the others who already had acquired a divine artifact wouldn't take it. Haha, Desri laughed. Nobody wants it? I don't have any weapons on me, so I might as well take this blade. I've learned a few close combat skills before as well. Desri picked up the blade. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 30, Grand Mega Saint. Holding this sharp blade, Desri experimentally waved it a few times, causing saber energy to crisscross. The blade's a good one. Only, my arm strength isn't good enough. Desri sighed. Without any battle chi, if one was physically strong enough, like the 4 supreme warriors, one could still reach astonishing levels of power just by wielding weapons with physical strength. Actually, the abyssal blade demon had relied on pure power alone in wielding the blade. What's the rush? Fane laughed. Desri, after you become a deity and your divine body forms, the strength of your body will be divine power. You'll be able to put this weapon to good use then, right? Haha, right. Desri laughed as well. Actually, everyone still knew that there was still an obstacle before becoming a deity. The 11th floor. The difficulty level from the 1st to the 5th floor hadn't been too high, but the 6th floor had the Flame Tyrant, with the danger level rising exponentially. Every 5 floors represented a difficulty level. Clearly, this 11th floor's danger level would be far greater than that of the 6th through 10th floors. The Flame Tyrant, the Queen Mother, and the other creatures had already been so terrifying. What would appear on the 11th floor? Everyone felt somber when considering this, but at the same time, they all knew that this 11th floor had corpses of deities, and had divine sparks. The 11th floor, Linley looked towards that distant, ancient pillar, with the staircase beneath it so noticeably covered in that black aura. According to what Lord Baruch said, the guardians of the 11th floor should still be saints. Clearly, the sovereign who controlled the necropolis of the gods still allowed for a chance of success. Linley understood, however, that from the 12th floor onwards, only deities would be able to proceed. I expect that from the 12th floor onwards, the guardians will all be deity-level creatures. Linley didn't even dare to think about proceeding to the 12th floor. His power was not bad, true, but in front of a deity, he couldn't fight back at all. Possessing a divine spark and gaining a divine body was a fundamental transformation in one's level of existence. Everyone understands, Desri said in a sonorous voice, staring at the assembled experts, that of the 80+ experts who originally came in, only 11 of us have made it to the 10th floor. Everyone nodded. The other 70+ experts had either died or retreated. Only they had come to the 10th floor. This is also the first time in my life I've been so close to a divine spark. I know that the 11th floor up above has divine sparks. Desri felt his emotions stirring. He had striven for so many years, after all. But everyone must also understand that the 11th floor will definitely be extremely dangerous. Compared to the Flame Tyrant, the Queen Mother, the Beholder King, and the Thorium Devil, it will be even more dangerous. All of the experts felt their hearts tremble as though having heard a thunderclap. Perhaps some of us will die on the 11th floor. Desri's voice became low. However, I myself am not afraid of death. I've already lived for thousands of years, and experienced everything I need to experience. If I die on the road to ascending to godhood, I won't regret my death. The eyes of all the experts were blazing with light. Desri, Rosary, Fane, Tulili, the 3 six-eyed golden eye lions, the black scale scorpion, they had all struggled to become deities for thousands of years. Life, death, they had long ago stopped worrying about these things. Of the 5 prime saints, Rutherford had died. Nobody felt too saddened by Rutherford's death. Because everyone understood, perhaps soon afterwards, they themselves would also die on the path to godhood. In this group of 11 experts, Linley, Bibi, and Olivier were all very young, comparatively. None of them had even passed their first century. Compared to Desri and the other experts, there were many differences between them. Thus, mentally, their understanding of life and death was perhaps different from that of Desri and the other experts. Everyone, let's make our preparations. This time, we will rest on the 10th floor for a year and a half. A year and a half later, we will enter the 11th floor. Desri said. All the experts felt a surge of excitement, and they silently nodded. They had entered the necropolis of the gods 8 years ago now. After training for another year and a half, they would only be a few months away from the 10-year time limit. On the 11th floor, the question of whether or not they would be able to obtain a divine spark would be resolved in perhaps just a single day. Everyone separated, finding a place to quietly train and meditate. Boss. Bibi looked at Linley. Linley looked at Bibi as well. They each understood what the other was thinking. Train well. To Linley, Bibi, and Olivier, it was still possible to make new breakthroughs in a year and a half, and have their strength rise further. As to the other 8 experts, unless some lucky accident happened, it would be truly difficult for them to make any more breakthroughs. On the boundless prairie, within a grassy area, a gentle wind blew across Linley's long hair. Linley's eyes were closed, and he was quietly seated in the meditative position. The profound truths of the earth, the further along this path I go, the greater the level of difficulty. I already have reached the level of 64 fused layers of the throbbing pulse of the world. If I want to be able to reach the level of 32 fused layers, It would probably take more time than it did last time. Last time it took me 8 years to make a breakthrough, I only have a scant year and a half. Linley had made his decision. I had better analyze the profound truths of the wind instead. Right now, the most important thing was to raise his strength and make a breakthrough as soon as possible, so as to have a greater chance on the 11th floor. Attuning my soul to nature will naturally cause my spiritual energy to rise. That way, I'll be able to train both my spiritual energy and the profound truths of the wind at the same time. Linley found a balance. And then, Linley stilled his mind. He forgot his identity and sense of self. Linley's spiritual energy had become totally attuned to nature. Within Linley's consciousness, he could clearly sense all the movements of the wind as it blew across the prairie, while at the same time, the stances of the rippling wind, tempos of the wind, and myriad swords converge appeared in his mind. Linley meditated on the fast and slow aspects of the elemental laws of the wind. At the same time, he meditated on the various sword techniques, and countless sword images flashed through his mind. Sword shadows flashing like the wind, formless and shapeless. In this state of silent pondering, Linley continued to heighten his understanding of the elemental laws of the wind at a slow pace, rising one step at a time. In his consciousness, the sword techniques flashing through his mind became more profound and more natural. His soul was one with nature, and his spiritual energy slowly improved as well. Time flowed onwards. On the prairie of the 10th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, the experts were all either seated cross-legged while meditating, or practicing one stance after another. Every person was making preparations for the 11th floor. Bibi was lying on the ground, his body covered with a faint black aura. Linley's hair had slowly grown longer as well. In the blink of an eye, more than a year passed, and only 2 months were left before the appointed time. Desri. Fane was seated alongside Desri on the grass. They had already trained to their limits long ago. If they made any more breakthroughs, they would become deities. And thus, there was no point for them to intentionally try and force any breakthroughs, so they just casually talked and joked with each other. Do you remember that battle, 5,000 years ago? Of course I do, Desri sighed. That battle where those experts from the other planes descended, one saint after another fell. The battles in that scorching hot desert, in the air above the South Sea, they were so brutal. Fane nodded slightly as well. Back then, Fane and Desri had already reached the saint level, but they were minor figures at the saint level. Back then, they were comparable to the likes of the stellar sword saint, Dylan. They were only early-stage saints, and they would have died if they participated in the battles between the experts who had descended from the other planes. Countless saints, and even quite a few deities. Saint against saint. Deity against deity. One of the deities charged into a group of saints, causing massive casualties. Desri sighed. From that day onwards, I made up my mind that one day, I would become a deity. The presence of a deity was like a prison. In front of a deity's power, saints were far too weak. 5,000 years now. Desri sighed. On this road, how many friends have I lost? Hayward died. That year, Kurilon Kailan died. Rutherford died as well. Fane nodded. Countless experts had worked hard throughout the years to become deities. To them, becoming saints wasn't difficult. But becoming deities, the difficulty level was simply too great. Fane. Desri looked at him. We have already reached the final step. This is also the closest we've come, in 5,000 years, to becoming deities. Fane nodded slightly, and said solemnly, success or failure depends on this final journey. HRM. Fane and Desri simultaneously turned to look at Linley. They glanced at each other, their eyes filled with shock. To Desri and the other experts, Linley and Olivier were both absolute geniuses. What took others thousands of years to accomplish, they were capable of accomplishing in under a century. As for Linley, he was even more shocking to them than Olivier. He had a strong foundation, and he had powerful insights into the laws. And now, it seems, he has finally broken through to the Grand Mega Saint level. Desri sighed. In the past, he himself had experienced this breakthrough. Linley could currently sense his soul throbbing. In his consciousness, that sea of spiritual energy was bellowing, and that seven-colored soul gem was vibrating, as though it was changing somehow. I'm finally going to break through. Linley's mind was filled with excitement. From the 9th rank to the peak of the 9th rank had taken 10 years, but from the peak of the 9th rank to breakthrough had taken 10 more years. Rumble, his spiritual energy was constantly transforming, and the amount of space his sea of spiritual energy was shrinking as well. But the power of his spiritual energy was actually increasing. And more importantly, that soul gem was beginning to transform. A slow transformation. The amount of spiritual energy had shrank to 1/10 of what it had previously been, but the purity of that spiritual energy and the amount of control he had over it skyrocketed. The soul gem. Linley's heart was swayed. Actually, the path of training was one where one's level of existence was constantly rising, and the most basic underpinning of life was the soul. Naturally, the soul itself would constantly transform. Grand Mega Saints primarily focused on training spiritual energy, and upon reaching the Grand Mega Saint level, the soul would also transform and reach a new level. A slow transformation. How long will this spiritual transformation continue before concluding? Linley didn't want to waste any time. He knew that the day on which they would enter the 11th floor was coming sooner and sooner. His spiritual transformation was occurring automatically. After paying attention to his spiritual transformation for a few days, he no longer waited, and instead focused his mind on attuning to the elemental laws of the wind and analyzing all sorts of sword techniques. All sorts of sword stances continuously flashed through his mind. While attuning, Linley found that as his soul transformed, his efficiency and effectiveness in analyzing the laws and his sword techniques was becoming greater and greater. HRM. Linley felt his soul shudder. Success. Linley carefully inspected his soul. Within his consciousness, above that sea of spiritual energy which had become dozens of times more pure, there was a hovering sword that was surrounded by faint azure light. Right. A sword. Sword. Linley was surprised. My soul transformed into the shape of a sword. Linley had not expected this. Actually, the form one's soul would take wasn't set in stone. For example, the undead of the netherworld might have souls shaped like a giant blaze, which was known as the soul of fire. The soul of the flame tyrant which Linley had killed was that translucent rock. A deity-level combatant might have a soul that was a blade shape, or even a ball shape. This would depend on every person's training path. Reaching the Grand Mega Saint level truly is different. Linley's spiritual energy easily swept out from his body. In this strange plane, in the past, Linley's spiritual energy could only encompass around 10 meters, but now, it could encompass hundreds of meters. Linley opened his eyes. Congratulations, Linley. Fane, Rosary, Desri, and the others were by his side. Even Bibi was grinning directly at Linley. Boss, you reached the Grand Mega Saint level? Haha, why don't you show off the legendary Dimensional Edge spell? I haven't seen it yet. Bibi was extremely excited. He was very happy for Linley having reached the Grand Mega Saint level. Linley was now capable of utilizing forbidden level spells of both the Earth style and the Wind style. Dimensional Edge. Linley was filled with anticipation towards this legendary spell, reputed to be the most powerful single-target forbidden level spell. He immediately began to chant the words to the spell. He had learned the words long ago, but this was his first time using it. Moments later, countless amounts of wind elemental essences swirled around Linley, and the wind in the area around him seemed to have come to a halt. A 3 or 4 meter long, semi-translucent, Azure blade of wind appeared, and like a flash of lightning, it shot out from Linley off into the distance. The speed of this spell was so fast, that most likely even Bibi and Fane wouldn't be able to dodge in time. The most terrifying part of it was, wherever this blade of wind passed, with a screech sound, tears in space appeared. Like a piece of cloth being torn apart, a huge rip in space appeared, but of course it instantly repaired itself afterwards. After flying for hundreds of meters, the dimensional edge finally disappeared. Tearing apart space, what can possibly withstand an attack like this? In addition, after sending out this dimensional edge, I can actually slightly control the path it travels in by using my spiritual energy. Linley was wildly overjoyed. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 31, Necropolis of the Gods, the 11th floor. Atop the prairie, the experts all clearly saw the rip in space appearing. Although they had heard of how astonishingly powerful the dimensional edge spell was, personally witnessing the rip in space created by the dimensional edge still left them feeling odd. The dimensional edge spell really does live up to its reputation of being the most powerful single-target forbidden level spell. Fane sighed in shock. Even me, if a Grand Mega Saint ambushed me with this spell, if we weren't too distant from each other, I would probably be unable to dodge in time. The dimensional edge spell could be considered to have reached a pinnacle in single-target attacks for the wind style. Its speed had reached the absolute limit, and its attack power had reached the limit as well. This is why I generally will always be rather cautious around wind-style Grand Mega Saints, especially if they have any grudge against me. Desri laughed. Generally speaking, whenever I sense a large amount of wind elemental essence gathering close to me, I'll immediately run and hide as far away as I can. Haha, all the experts began to laugh loudly. Desri, you are afraid as well. Fane laughed loudly as he said. For Linley to finally break through to become a Grand Mega Saint was something which caused Desri, Fane, and the other experts to feel surprise and joy. Linley's power would increase greatly, which gave their group a higher chance of obtaining a divine spark on the 11th floor. Enough. There's 2 more months from now until the year and a half we agreed on is up. Let's all rest for the final 2 months. Desri said clearly. The experts all nodded, then separated again. Right now, Bibi was with Linley. Boss, you finally reached the Grand Mega Saint level. This is wonderful. Bibi was so happy that he was jumping up and down, waving his little claws happily in the air, his little eyes squinting in delight. Although I've become a Grand Mega Saint, that only means my chance of surviving the 11th floor is now a little bit higher. Linley sighed. Look at how much the difficulty level rose from the first level of 5 floors to the second level of 5 floors. This 11th floor. Bibi nodded his head as well. The 11th floor would probably be 10 or 100 times as dangerous as the 6th floor, where the Flame Tyrant had been. Would they be successful? Actually, neither Linley nor Desri, or indeed any of the others, felt confident. But Desri's group had struggled towards the goal of becoming a deity for thousands of years, and now that they were so close to reaching their goal, they naturally wouldn't easily give up. In the last 2 months, we'll have to prepare well. Having reached the Grand Mega Saint level and especially after his soul had changed, Linley felt that his very existence had just transformed to a new stage. Actually, Bibi could also sense it. Right now, Linley, standing in front of him, was like a sharp blade that was pointing towards the sky. Utterly unblockable. 2 months later. Beneath that ancient pillar. Outside the exit. The 11 experts had gathered. Deep blue draconic scales covering his entire body, Linley was in dragon form. At the same time, a diamond-like sparkling armor covered Linley's entire body, including even his draconic tail. This was the protective spell of Earth-style saints, the Sacred Earth Guard armor. Around the diamond Sacred Earth Guard armor, there was a layer of deep azure black battle chi covering Linley's entire body, forming a thin membrane. This was the Pulse Guard defense. the defenses of the Dragon Blood Warrior, the Saint-level Sacred Earth Guard armor, and the Pulse Guard defense. With these three layers of defenses reinforcing each other, Linley's current defensive power was most likely so great that not even BB could match him. Desri and Rosary were covered with their respective elemental saint armors as well, while Fane, Olivier, Tulili and the others were covered with a layer of battle chi. Everyone had fully prepared themselves. Even BB's body had a dim black aura around it. The goal we have been striving towards for 5,000 years, it all comes down to this. Desri's eyes were glowing. The eyes of Fane, Twilili, Rosary, the three six-eyed golden Ni lions, and the black scale scorpion were also extremely resolute and firm. On the 11th floor, the danger we encounter will definitely be 10 times or 100 times greater than in the lower floors. Anyone, two, or more of us can die. Desri swept everyone with his gaze. He said solemnly, but those who survive and are successful, whether man or magical beast, must definitely help the dead resolve their affairs, be it debts or grudges, in the normal world. All of the experts nodded silently. In the 11th floor, nobody could afford to play the part of a lone hero. They all had to work together to have the slightest hope of success. Fane swept every single person with his gaze. In a low voice, he said, "No matter what, I hope that at least one of us 11 will become a deity." What Fane feared the most was, all 11 of them would perish here on the 11th floor. It isn't a hope. It is a certainty. An absolute certainty that we will succeed. Tulili's eyes were extremely fierce. "Let's go." Desri turned his gaze towards the exit, staring at it. "Let's go." The eyes of the 11 experts were extremely firm. Together, they entered the darkly glowing exit, heading to the 11th floor. Necropolis of the Gods. The 11th floor. The light of a setting sun was casting its glow upon this entire world. This was a world of metal, and the vast, endless earth was covered with all sorts of metal constructs. Massive metal mountains and metal valleys could be seen everywhere, and the wind howled here as though it were knives. Suddenly, the 11 experts of the Yulan continent appeared at the 11th floor. How desolate! How bizarre! Rosary stared at the surrounding area as she mentally spoke into their minds. According to their agreement, after entering the 11th floor, unless it was absolutely necessary, nobody was to speak, so as to avoid disturbing any terrifyingly powerful creatures here. This ability to speak mentally with the soul was one which Linley could now manage as well. After one had enough spiritual energy, all one needed to do was learn the trick to it. "Everyone, be careful." When we encountered the Beholder King on the 8th floor, it was also extremely quiet there at first. Nobody can afford to be incautious. "Now, let's go hunting for divine sparks." Linley, now acknowledged as the most powerful of these 11 experts, led the way in front. The other experts followed behind Linley. Desri, Rosary, and Olivier were in the center, as their defense was the weakest. Linley had 3 layers of defenses, while his body had the Pearl of Life. His soul had risen in power, and he possessed the spells of a grand mega saint. Linley was indeed now the most powerful person here. "Everything here is metal. I don't sense any life at all." After flying for a long time, Linley was beginning to frown. But Linley didn't dare to let his guard down. He focused all of his attention on maintaining his vigilance, carefully inspecting the area to see if there were any corpses of deities here, or divine sparks. At the same time, he had to be very careful to see if there were any powerful creatures present, hiding in a hard-to-spot location. The creatures here could be as large as a mountain or as small as a fist. The 11 experts were careful enough for 12 people. "There's a valley up ahead. It seems to have a special aura about it." Desri's voice rang out in everyone's mind. Linley also noticed that distant valley, which seemed to have some sort of unique aura emanating from within it. In addition, that aura made one's heart shake and feel a sense of pressure. Could that be the aura of a divine spark? Linley's voice rang out in their minds. Everyone's eyes lit up. Something capable of making their hearts shake and make them feel pressure, that just might be a divine spark indeed. After all, nobody here had ever seen a divine spark, but they had all sensed a deity's divine presence before. It might be a divine spark, but it might also be the creature guarding the 11th floor. Rosarie's face was solemn, and her voice rang out in everyone's mind. Guardian. Linley and the others felt their hearts quiver. Logically speaking, the difficulty level of this 11th floor should be 10 times or 100 times greater than that of the 6th and 7th floors. The Flame Tyrant and the Queen Mother had already been so powerful, then how powerful would the creatures on this 11th floor be? Everyone, let's decide. Should we enter the valley or not? Linley asked the experts. Enter. A six-eyed golden eye lion said. If we're even afraid of this, then even if we find a divine spark inside, there'll probably be no one bold enough to take it. The experts exchanged glances. Right. If they were so timid as to avoid every unique aura they sensed, how could they possibly find a divine spark? Enter. Fane said mentally, and all of the experts turned to stare towards the valley. The 11 experts, with Linley in front, crept towards that distant metallic valley. This metallic valley was over 100 meters wide. As Linley and the rest of the 11 experts flew to the air above the metallic valley, they could even more clearly sense that heart-shaking aura. This valley is covered by a faint red fog. Linley frowned. Looking down into the immeasurably deep valley and that faint red fog, he saw that the fog was roiling about. It gave Linley a feeling, as though there was an enormous creature beneath the fog, and the fog was its exhaled breath. Exchanging glances with everyone, Linley mentally spoke to them. Let's go down. The 11 experts all fearlessly flew downwards. The deeper into the valley they went, the more Linley and the other experts could sense that heart-racing aura. In a short period of time, they entered the area near that red fog, and the 11 experts flew towards the direction of the source of that aura. Whoosh! Their flying speed was very fast. It only took them a few seconds to go from the air above the valley to the valley below, but those few seconds, to these 11 experts, had been unbearable. The 11 experts landed on the valley floor. The fog was fairly faint, not too thick, and one could see within a radius of 100 meters. What's that? Linley could vaguely see that there was a body lying on an enormous, flat rock, off in the distance. The heart-racing aura was coming from that body. A deity's corpse. Desri excitedly transmitted mentally to them. Linley felt his heart clench hard. Even Fane and Tulali's breathing became slightly heavier. Without hesitating at all of the experts quietly crept towards that giant flat rock. Ha ha! Suddenly, loud, wild laughter shook the entire valley, and it seemed as though that wild laugh was coming from the giant flat rock which had a boulder resting on it. All 11 experts, Linley included, felt their hearts suddenly shudder violently. Not good. Linley knew that the situation had just turned grim, and he immediately transmitted mentally, retreat, quick, retreat. Not just Linley. This was the reaction of the other 10 experts as well. They flew into the skies as fast as lightning. Their speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they flew out of the faint red fog, but then, Linley and the other 10 experts stopped in their tracks. They stopped there, within the valley, not daring to fly up. Because above them, bodies made entirely out of metal. Arms, legs, and forehead made of swords. These creatures appeared, a low-level type of creature born from the abyss and made for slaughter, abyssal blade demons. It was abyssal blade demons. Linley and the others had encountered an abyssal blade demon on the 10th floor. Although they were extremely fast and powerful, their defense was only average. Any one of Linley's group, when going all out, could have killed that abyssal blade demon. But right now, Linley, Fane, Desri, and the others all felt a sense of hopelessness in their hearts. They were clustered as densely together as ants. At least 10,000 abyssal blade demons hovered in the air above the valley, blocking out even the light of the skies. When the abyssal blade demon of the 10th floor had chopped down, Fane, despite using a weapon to block, had still been made to vomit blood by the impact. In terms of raw offensive power, they were comparable to Tulili. Haha, it's been so long since we've encountered any invaders. Children, kill them for me. Within the endless sea of abyssal blade demons, a small, skinny red abyssal blade demon let out a wild shout. Whoosh! 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 Howling a piercing howl, the countless abyssal blade demons charged downwards from the sky. Each of them wielded those long blades with both hands. Linley and the others knew exactly how sharp those long blades were. Those were weapons on par with low-level divine artifacts. Go down. Desri breathed raggedly. Without hesitating at all, Linley and the other experts immediately charged back down. Swish, the faint red mist was suddenly sucked away into a different part of the valley at high speed. In the blink of an eye, Linley and the others saw what was going on. The faint red fog had been drawn in by another distant, small, skinny, blood-red abyssal blade demon into his chest. There was a blood-red abyssal blade demon above them, and there was another one within the valley as well. There's a huge amount of abyssal blade demons below us as well. Rosary's voice rang out in everyone's minds. The valley actually had tunnels within it, and 2 of the tunnels were currently filled with endless amounts of abyssal blade demons which were flying out of it. The air above them was flooded with countless abyssal blade demons, but beneath them, there were tunnels filled with them as well. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 32, The Blood-Stained Underground. Everyone knew exactly how powerful the abyssal blade demons were. 1 or 2 of them, they didn't need to fear. But if 100 or 200 of them attacked and fought with Linley's group head-on, most likely more than half of Linley's group would die. But now, the abyssal blade demons were clustered so densely that they were in the tens of thousands. There was no choice. Flee. Execute plan number 2. Into the tunnels. Linley's voice rang out in everyone's mind. Swish, the black scale scorpion's long scorpion tail suddenly spun, then easily drilled straight through the side of the metallic mountain. At an astonishing speed. The black scale scorpion chopped a tunnel through the mountain, and Desri, Rosary, and the others immediately charged inside. Linley, Fane, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, Bibi, and Olivier were in the rear guard. Every one of the abyssal blade demons possessed lightning-fast speed, and they came down like a plague of locusts. Kill them. Linley wielded the adamantine heavy sword in one hand and blood violet in the other. At this moment, with countless abyssal blade demons charging at them, every person, be it Linley, Fane, the 6-eyed golden Ni lions, Bibi, or Olivier, was coming under terrifying attack. Olivier was the first amongst them to be forced backwards. Olivier, wielding that mystic Isis word, was covered with a half-black, half-white aura which glowed at the same time. The mystic Isis word clashed against an incoming blade of an abyssal blade demon. As it did, Oliver's body trembled, then a cold light flashed in his eyes as the mystic Isis word suddenly snaked out and attacked again. Slash, the mystic Isis word, covered in black and white light, managed to sever the head of that abyssal blade demon. But immediately afterwards, 3 more abyssal blade demons simultaneously chopped towards Olivier. Oliver's face changed, and he retreated at high speed, but in terms of speed, these abyssal blade demons were on par with Fane and Bibi. Olivier could only rely on his mystic ice longsword to frantically block each blade. Bang! 2 blades in a row collided against his battle chi barrier. Oliver's barrier of battle chi was directly smashed apart. Enduring the pain, Olivier relied on the counter-force from the 2 blows to scurry into the tunnel the black scale scorpion had made. But despite that, nearly half of his waist had been chopped into. If he had been just a bit slower, his entire body would have been chopped in two. Bang! Immediately after that, Fane was the next to be forced flee into the tunnel by the attacks of a large number of abyssal blade demons. Fane was sent flying backwards by the combined attacks of 4 abyssal blade demons, and his body was actually chopped into 3 different parts, but Fane's head flew at high speed into the tunnel and fled. At the same time, Fane's body began to rebuild itself at an astonishing speed. Linley, be careful. If you can't hold on, then flee. Fane mentally transmitted to him while fleeing. Linley could already sense how terrifyingly powerful these abyssal blade demons were. In but one exchange, after he killed 4 abyssal blade demons in a row, his pulse guard defense and his sacred earth guard armor had been destroyed by a large number of wildly chopping blows from the abyssal blade demons. His draconic scales were shattered, and blood was spewing out. The pearl of life in his body began to activate. Rumble, the draconic scales repaired themselves, and the pulse guard defense on Linley's body once more formed. Scree! BB was transformed into 8 different doppelgangers, wildly attacking the opponents. There were at least 10 abyssal blade demons who had died to his claws, but the abyssal blade demons were very smart as well. Instantly, dozens of them simultaneously attacked all 8 doppelgangers, with each of them suffering from the attacks of 3 or 4 abyssal blade demons. BB's body was immediately sent flying backwards, as he retreated with a hint of blood on his fur. Bang! A group of abyssal blade demons pounced towards BB. BB, retreat! Linley shouted loudly. Swoosh! BB didn't waste any time, also fleeing into the tunnel. As he fled inside, his body was matted with blood and his fur had been chopped into. Seeing this sight, Linley's heart ached. After all, BB didn't have a pearl of life. The bodies of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were covered with black battle armor, and thus they were able to hold on for an even longer period of time than BB. Linley, we can't hold. Retreat, hurry. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were also forced back by large amounts of blade chops from the abyssal blade demons, and they fled into the tunnel, their bodies also matted with blood. With each member of the rear guard having retreated into the tunnel, their defensive perimeter was naturally shrinking. With the 6-eyed golden Ni lions gone, Linley immediately retreated into the tunnel entrance as well. Kill him! Countless abyssal blade demons howled, raising their sharp long blades and chopping towards Linley. Not good. At the same time, more than 10 abyssal blade demons were chopping towards Linley from every which way. Above, below, in front, on each side, more than 10 abyssal blade demons in total, with each blade possessing lightning-fast speed. Too fast. Linley's blood-violet sword and adamantine heavy sword were only able to kill 2 of the abyssal blade demons, while the other 10 or so blades landed on Linley's body simultaneously. Bang! The pulse guard defense, which was already at the throbbing pulse of the world, 64 fused waves immediately collapsed. Not good. Just the momentum force from those 10 blows had sent Linley flying backwards, while at the same time shattering the draconic scales on Linley's body, sending blood everywhere. The green light of the pearl of life was constantly flashing, however, and Linley's body replenished at an astonishing rate. Can't hold any longer. The others should have been able to flee a good distance by now. Linley scurried into a tunnel as well. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr At the same time, a large number of abyssal blade demons clustered outside the valley also charged towards the tunnel. Pursue them! Countless abyssal blade demons roared with anger. Linley turned to glance, and saw the bloodthirsty, wild look in the eyes of those abyssal blade demons. Rumble, instantly, earth elemental energy wildly began to gather, and a large number of giant stones formed behind Linley, instantly sealing off the tunnel in its entirety. As Linley continued to fly, countless boulders continued to appear out of nowhere behind him. Earth-style instacast spell of the 8th rank, Rubble Rain. Although the black scale scorpion's tunneling speed is the fastest out of all of us, this world is a world of metal, and even the ground is made of metal. His tunneling speed is definitely inferior to his flying speed. All we can do right now is to try and hang on. Linley continued flying while sealing off the tunnel behind him. Swish. From behind, a large number of abyssal blade demons were still flying forward. These abyssal blade demons didn't pay any attention to the boulders Linley was using to stop up the tunnel, just using their heads to ram straight through them. The sharp blades atop their forehead instantly split the boulders apart. And they continued to pursue at high speed. However, although they were able to easily destroy the boulders, their speed was still affected. Linley hurried towards the experts up ahead. After all, in terms of flying speed, they were moving much faster than the black scale scorpion. Desri, Fane, and the others were flying shoulder to shoulder, while the black scale scorpion was ahead of them, tunneling through. What should we do? Linley asked frantically. At this time, there was a large number of abyssal blade demons in hot pursuit. In terms of speed, underground, we're traveling more quickly than the abyssal blade demons, so we should be able to shake them off. After shaking them off, let's go look for the divine spark. Desri said. This was the decision which the various experts had agreed on. Even now, they didn't want to give up. When they had drawn near that deity's corpse just now, they had used their spiritual energy to search it. That deity's corpse had been split open by the head long ago, and the divine spark had been taken. The corpse was nothing more than a tool used to attract their attention. While Linley's group continued to make their way underground at high speed, in the air above them, countless abyssal blade demons were densely clustered, with 3 blood-red abyssal blade demons leading them. It's about time. Children, 10 every 10 kilometers. Head out now. The leading blood-red abyssal blade demon said loudly. Flying at high speed, the abyssal blade demons formed into squads of 10, and one squad of abyssal blade demons after another dove directly underground, easily driving through the metallic floor and beginning to tunnel underground. A squad was inserted every 10 kilometers, and of course, in the air coming down, they flew far faster than Linley's squad tunneled. They want to flee from underground. The physically small leader, that blood-red abyssal blade demon, laughed coldly. HRMPH. We have over 1 million citizens. Within 10,000 square kilometers, we will set up a heaven-encompassing web. How can they possibly flee? Another blood-red abyssal blade demon said. The third abyssal blade demon laughed loudly. I've arranged a tribe of over 10,000 abyssal blade demons to guard the entrance back to the 10th floor. No matter where they run, they will die. If Linley's group knew that this 11th floor had over 1 million abyssal blade demons, they probably would have given up long ago. But they didn't know. In the valley, there were actually only 100 abyssal blade demons who had managed to fight with Linley, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, Fane, Bibi, and Olivier. The others hadn't been able to squeeze in, due to space limitations. But despite that, Linley's group had been forced into a sorry state. The 11 experts tunneled at high speed as the scorpion's tail of the black scale scorpion continued to spin at high speed, easily opening the path for them. The speed at which he did this was far faster than the speed at which those abyssal blade demons behind them were splitting aside those stone boulders. It seems we should be able to throw the abyssal blade demons off after all. Fane grew slightly calmer. Not good. Linley suddenly raised his head. Not just Linley, Desri, Fane, and the others raised their head as well. In but an instant. Rumble, the metal above them collapsed, and nearly 10 abyssal blade demons charged out towards them. These abyssal blade demons discovered Linley's group, and immediately let out excited, high-pitched roars. Roar. The sound of that roar caused the metallic ground to rumble, spreading through the area. The sound waves traveled much faster through the metal than through the air. Underground, a large number of abyssal blade demons were searching at high speed. There. A large number of abyssal blade demons simultaneously flew towards the location where the sound came from, and some even predicted where Linley's group would head next, heading there to block them. Clang. The adamantine heavy sword struck against the body of an abyssal blade demon, shaking it into tiny pieces, but Linley felt pain in his waist, as he had been chopped by a blade. With a furious roar, Linley swung his sword with a backhanded blow. Although the draconic scales on his body were destroyed time and time again, each time they instantly healed. Bellowing, Linley forced the charging abyssal blade demons to retreat, one after another. Right now, Linley's group of experts was suffering the constant attacks of a large number of abyssal blade demons who were assaulting them from every direction. Linley was the only one blocking from his side, but despite that, all of the experts in Linley's group were in a sorry state. Bang! Fane and Olivier were smashed against a nearby stone. Back to the 10th floor. Desri said in agony. Fane, Rosary, Tulili, the three six-eyed golden Ni lions and even Linley were stunned. The goal they had for 5,000 years, were they to give it up now? But more and more abyssal blade demons were pouring in, and they were almost unable to hold on. After all, the battle was attracting more and more abyssal blade demons to head in this direction. And worst of all, aside from Linley and Fane who could instantly heal, the others had to rely on Desri's healing spells, but healing spells, in this sort of high-speed battle, were simply too slow. With a vicious backhand blow, Fane killed another abyssal blade demon, and then roared in pain, "Back! Back!" Tulili growled as well. Nobody was willing. Their hearts were unwilling. But more and more abyssal blade demons were coming. They truly weren't able to hold on any longer. If it wasn't for Linley, who was able to take on a third of the abyssal blade demons by himself, they probably would have been doomed long ago. Despite that, right now, they were like a tiny little ship in the howling sea. They could capsize at any moment. They had no choice. Back to the 10th floor. The black scale scorpion immediately began to change the direction in which he tunneled. Quick, don't waste time. If we delay, there will be even more abyssal blade demons. I can't take much more. Linley only felt as though countless blades were flashing in front of him. Growling, Linley stabbed out with blood violet while swinging with his adamantine heavy sword, but despite that, he was still knocked flying by the chopping blows, with blood once more matting his entire body, and even his white bones showing through. Green light swirled around him, and Linley's body quickly recovered. You won't be able to flee. A cold voice rang out as a blood-red abyssal blade demon suddenly dove into the tunnels. Not good. As soon as Linley saw this blood-red abyssal blade demon, he knew that the situation had just gone from bad to worse. The first one to die will be you. Wielding that blood-red long blade in his two hands, the red abyssal blade demon stared coldly at Linley. The other abyssal blade demon all respectively parted for him, instead wildly attacking Fane, Tulili, and the three six-eyed golden Ni lions. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 33, Life and Death. From time to time, Desri would use his spiritual energy to attack. This battle was simply too intense. Slash. Space itself seemed to be sliced through, as the blood-red long blade transformed into a bloody saber flash, piercing through the space between the red abyssal blade demon and Linley, arriving in front of Linley in an instant. With the adamantine heavy sword in one hand, and blood violet in the other, the dragon blood warrior, Linley, let out an angry snort, and the adamantine heavy sword in his hand struck out gracefully, seemingly slow but actually fast, clanging against that blood-red long blade. Clang. Linley felt as though a mountain had smashed against him. Slash. He couldn't suppress the blood that bubbled up, and blood burst forth from his lips. Even the draconic scales on the right hand wielding the adamantine heavy sword had been shattered from the vibration, but moments later, Linley's injury healed at an astonishing rate. Linley himself didn't pay attention to a minor wound like this. HRM. Linley was staring at the blood-red abyssal blade demon, waiting to see what the result would be. The attack he had used just now was the one he had used to kill the flame tyrant, the most powerful blow of the profound truths of the earth. The body of the red abyssal blade demon quivered like a steel wire, and with that quiver, a hint of golden blood appeared at the corner of its mouth. "You really are powerful." The red abyssal blade demon stared coldly at Linley. Linley was secretly shocked. No wonder he is the leader of the abyssal blade demons. His body is far more powerful than the bodies of those ordinary abyssal blade demons. Despite taking my full strength blow, his body wasn't shattered to pieces. The bodies of metal creatures are indeed far tougher than the bodies of humans. Growl. The red abyssal blade demon's eyes were filled with flames, and it tightened its two-handed grip on its blood-red long blade. Within the tunnel, both suddenly flew towards the other at high speed. "No matter what, I have to kill him this time." Linley had made up his mind. The wind suddenly emitted an ear-piercing, desolate howl. Linley and the red abyssal blade demon once more clashed, and this time, Linley used Blood Violet as his primary attack. In the blink of an eye, 10 million devilish violet sword flashes appeared, arcing through the air like the countless tendrils of the Queen Mother. Space itself suddenly froze, and the red abyssal blade demon also felt that its own flying speed had just dropped dramatically. HRMPH. A hint of bloodlust appeared in Linley's eyes. He immediately activated the baleful aura within Blood Violet with his now extremely pure spiritual energy. This was the first time Linley had utilized the baleful aura of Blood Violet after reaching the Grand Mega Saint level, and this time, the baleful aura was more explosive and fiercer than ever before. A blood-red air, almost physical in substance, suddenly attacked the red abyssal blade demon. Ah! The red abyssal blade demon suddenly had the feeling as though he were facing one of the most powerful fiends of the distant abyss, and the terror that he felt sprang from his very soul, causing his originally mighty blade blow to hesitate slightly. Wait, not right. Unfortunately, the baleful aura was just a remnant of its owner which had been left in Blood Violet. Blood Violet's original owner didn't himself appear. The red abyssal blade demon quickly recovered, but by the time he did, he saw a pair of bloodthirsty eyes and a single flash of violet sword light. Die! Those 10 million sword flashes had already combined into a single violet sword flash. The abyssal blade demon, earlier affected by the baleful aura, had raised his blade to block, but the sword flash had already arrived before his eyes. Slash! The sword light flashed through the neck of the red abyssal blade demon, and as it did, a metallic head was sent flying away, its eyes filled with awe and disbelief. And then, the lifeless corpse of the red abyssal blade demon fell to the ground. No matter how powerful the abyssal blade demon was, it wasn't a deity, and it didn't possess a pearl of life. With its head gone, it died within seconds. The attacks of the surrounding abyssal blade demons suddenly came to a halt. All of the abyssal blade demons stared in disbelief at the scene. Fane, Desri, Olivier, and the others, who had been in dire straits from the sudden attack of the abyssal blade demons, also felt astonished. They, too, had discovered that Linley had killed that red abyssal blade demon. Quick, flee! Linley's voice rang out in the minds of everyone. Fane, Desri, and the others immediately recovered and hurriedly fled through the tunnels. Up in the air above, countless abyssal blade demons flew about, while in the middle of that horde was two small, skinny red abyssal blade demons. The two leaders had already received the news from their subordinates. Schuler Schule actually died. The red abyssal blade demon on the left said in disbelief. It was the Draconian. A cold light flashed through the eyes of the red abyssal blade demon on the right. Earlier in the valley, the Draconian already made a big impression on me. His body should have a pearl of life in it. He was heavily injured by our children several times, but in an instant, he recovered. The main problem is that they are underground. That makes things troublesome. The left abyssal blade demon shook his head. Underground, there is no line of sight at all, and the spiritual energy of our children can only stretch for a few meters. In a fierce battle such as this, that sort of radius is useless. The right abyssal blade demon said. In addition, there's only so much space in the tunnels. At mostly, only 10 or so of our children can engage in battle against them at once. Although an enormous number of abyssal blade demons had also gone underground, their line of sight was obstructed, and in addition, Linley's side was moving at high speed. There were only so many abyssal blade demons that could attack them at once. Let the children of one tribe entangle them, while we constantly keep an eye on their movements. The right abyssal blade demon said coldly. Whether it is to find a divine spark or to return to the 10th floor, they have to eventually leave the underground area. As soon as they do, the eyes of the left abyssal blade demon also flashed with a cold look. Quick, quick. Linley's group of experts were frantic. In the tunnels, every so often, a nearby wall would suddenly be pierced through, with a large amount of abyssal blade demons pouring through afterwards. Fortunately we are underground. If we were above ground, if countless abyssal blade demons charged at them together from all directions, Linley shuddered, just thinking about that terrifying scene. At the entrance to the valley, the combined of attacks of just around 10 abyssal blade demons had knocked Linley flying with their chops. If he hadn't had a pearl of life, Linley probably would have died long ago. Although Linley's spiritual energy could only encompass a very small area here, upon reaching the saint level, their mental imaging abilities were extremely powerful. For example, Linley was able to mentally replay the profound truths of the earth and further refine it. In the minds of Linley's group of experts, the location of the exit to the 10th floor was clearly marked, and they also knew exactly where they are and what direction they were flying so quickly in. Thus, traveling underground area, it wouldn't be too hard to return to that exit. Even if they were off, they wouldn't be off by more than 1,000 meters or so. Everyone, hold on for a bit longer. We're almost at the exit. The black scale scorpion's voice rang out in their minds. All the experts felt a surge of energy, and they all strenuously resisted the constantly charging abyssal blade demons. All of the experts put their strength on full display, and any who was heavily injured would immediately retreat to Desri's side to be healed, allowing other experts to replace them momentarily. Linley also had the feeling that the density of attacks from the abyssal blade demons had reached a stable level. In addition, everyone's teamwork had reached an extremely high level as well. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were once more sent retreating by the wild attacks of the abyssal blade demons. Fane, Tulili, and Bibi immediately filled the gap, while Desri immediately began to heal the wounds of those 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions. Fortunately, this sort of healing spell was of the 9th level, and thus to someone like Desri who could instacast them, it was not too troublesome. We've arrived at the exit to the 10th floor. Desri's excited voice rang out in everyone's mind. The black scale scorpion's tunneling direction suddenly shifted upwards as well, and the abyssal blade demons attacking them suddenly dropped in number as well. Most likely, many abyssal blade demons are still moving to block us off in the direction we were previously heading. Tulili also noticed that only 2 or 3 abyssal blade demons would occasionally appear and attack. Everyone, don't let down your guard. Linley immediately instructed. The 3 of us, plus Linley and Fane, will charge up first. The other experts will follow from behind. The voice of one of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions rang out in everyone's mind as well. In terms of defense, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were extremely powerful, while Linley and Fane both had pearls of life. Nobody disagreed. Swoosh. Charging upwards at high speed, Linley and the others spread out their spiritual energy. There are no abyssal blade demons in the 20 to 30 meters above us. Desri's voice rang out. They were already very close to ground level. Underground. Spiritual energy penetrated a much lower distance than above ground. Head up. Nobody hesitated at all at a time like this. Linley and Fane led the upwards charge, with the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions behind them. The other experts formed the third unit and the fourth unit. Boom! Boom! Linley's group of 5 erupted from the ground. Based on their current surroundings, they could immediately tell that they were only 200 meters away from the exit. However, although Linley, Fane, and the other experts were able to locate the exit, everyone felt misery in their hearts. The path to the exit was blocked off by multiple layers of abyssal blade demons, 10 inner layers, and 10 outer layers. Nearly 10,000 abyssal blade demons were clustered there. With all those abyssal blade demons there, how was Linley's group going to break through their guard and flee into the exit? The worst part of it was, in the air above them, hovering like a storm of locusts, there were countless abyssal blade demons, covering the skies like an endless horde. How many abyssal blade demons? 100,000? Even more. Linley, Fane, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, everyone felt their hearts clench tightly. Rumble. The countless abyssal blade demons, upon seeing Linley's group, were like mosquitoes that had seen blood. They all charged over wildly at the same time. The sudden attack of nearly 1,000,000 abyssal blade demons was simply a terrifying, apocalyptic scene. Even nearby space itself seemed to rumble. They were only 100 meters away. Instantly, those countless abyssal blade demons arrived in front of Linley's group. Back down, quick, quick, quick. Fane's terrified voice rang out in the minds of the other 10 experts. Even Bibi, Rosary, and Tulili, who had just left the underground, were scared silly by the sight. Almost in unison, they scurried back underground. Bang! The rumbling sound of nearly 1,000,000 abyssal blade demons running across the ground shook the world. Some ran in a straight line, while some charged downwards, but all of them simultaneously delivered vicious blows towards Linley's group. Bang! A terrifying explosive force, and the area for several square kilometers around them exploded, with countless pieces of metal blasting everywhere. In the blink of an eye, a giant crater hundreds of meters deep was born, and in the center of the metallic crater, a large number of tunnels could now be seen. Linley, Fane, and the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions had been the first to go above ground, and so they were the last to flee back underground. How far could they have gotten? In addition, this combined attack from countless abyssal blade demons, which had all struck out at virtually the same time, had caused the energy of their blows to strike downwards like a single mighty ripple which smashed against the ground. The rearguard of Linley, Fane, and the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions had to welcome this powerful attack. Linley just barely managed to raise his adamantine heavy sword and blood violet to block. Bang! Linley almost instantly felt a large number of saber flashes chop against his body. His pulse guard defense and his draconic scales almost instantly exploded, and even Linley's adamantine heavy sword and blood violet sword were struck so hard that they flew backwards and struck against Linley. Ah! His entire body suddenly seemed shorter, because as Linley looked down, he saw that his legs had been smashed into bits. Flee! Flee! Linley only knew that they had to flee. The terrifying scene of those countless abyssal blade demons charging towards them had already caused Linley's group's willpower to collapse. Linley noticed that next to him, beneath his chest, Fane's entire body was gone, including both arms. Even his long sword was gone. Second brother! A desolate howl rang out. Flee! Flee! They fled wildly through the tunnels. After a long time had passed, they finally came to a halt, because there no longer were any abyssal blade demons in pursuit of them. Fane's body was quickly repairing itself, but it had only repaired up to his legs thus far. Fane's entire body was racked in pain. And wasn't Linley in much the same situation? However, compared to the others, the two of them were already very lucky. Of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, only 2 were left, and both of them were heavily injured, their bodies matted with blood. Second brother did it to save us. The eldest six-eyed golden Ni lion, Cleo, growled. The three siblings weren't like Linley and Fane, who had pearls of life. At the critical moment, the second of those three siblings had suddenly expanded his body to protect his two brothers. The remaining 10 experts looked at each other, and within their eyes, there was a hint of bitterness, pain, and despair. What should they do now? Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 34, Death. Everyone's minds were still filled with that earlier scene of annihilation. Those countless abyssal blade demons charging down towards them, Linley's group had been completely stunned. Their minds were completely blank. Terror, disbelief, they had the feeling that they were about to go crazy. How could there be so many abyssal blade demons here? Linley shook his head, unable to accept it. Tulali shook his head and sighed as well. Most likely, even if the departed flame tyrant or queen mother were present, in the face of the joint attacks of those countless abyssal blade demons, they would also be chopped into mincemeat. Simply too frightening, truly frightening. With so many abyssal blade demons on the 11th floor, who can possibly acquire a divine spark? Olivier had an ugly look on his face. Perhaps the sovereign who created this necropolis of the gods is just playing a trick on people. The six-eyed golden Ni lion, Cleo, was filled with rage and grief. Of the 5 brothers, 2 had died in the Gabados planar prison, and now yet another had died, leaving only 2 of them behind. No. There's still a chance of success. Desri shook his head and sighed. The elemental laws contain boundless profound mysteries. The aspects of the laws that we have gained insight into are fairly low-level ones. However, the aspect which Linley, for example, used to attack and kill the flame tyrant is one of the higher-level ones. If someone, for example, reached an extremely high level of understanding in the light-speed aspect of the elemental laws of the light, he would be far faster than all of those abyssal blade demons. In that case, most likely, he would have a chance of acquiring a divine spark. Although both Olivier and Desri were very fast, they didn't have very deep understandings with regards to light speed. Let's not discuss this for now. More importantly, we need to figure out what exactly we are going to do. Does anyone have any ideas? Desri swept the experts with his gaze. What can we do? It'd be wonderful if we could even return to the 10th floor. Rosary sighed. This is the most dangerous of the necropolis of the gods. 3,000 years a cycle, right? There's 2 other giant necropolis of the gods. Those 2 won't be as dangerous as this one. Desri, Fane, and Tulali all nodded. 3 major tunnels, all headed to different necropolis of the gods. This one was the most dangerous of them all. The more danger, the more treasure. Tulali sighed. In those other 2 necropolis of the gods, we didn't get a single true divine artifact at all. But here, we even procured 2 pearls of life. I trust there is definitely more than just one divine spark on this 11th floor as well. The other experts all secretly nodded. The greater the danger, the greater the rewards would generally be. But if the danger was so great that they didn't have any hope at all, no matter how many divine sparks this place had, what good would it be? How about let's just hide here? We'll hide for a few months and wait for the 10 years to be up. The black scale scorpion spoke. Linley's eyes lit up as well. A person had to know their own limits. When Linley had seen those countless abyssal blade demons, he had already given up on procuring a divine spark on this 11th floor. After all, there were simply too many abyssal blade demons. It probably wouldn't work. Olivier shook his head. Place your ears against the metal walls and listen. Linley immediately pressed his ear against the metallic wall, and a very faint vibration could be sensed coming over constantly. Everyone's hearts sank. There should an extremely high number of abyssal blade demons coming our way from the underground, the third of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions, Clearvox Kaliwo, said. Although they aren't moving very fast, they are moving very methodically. When those abyssal blade demons surround us, we can't stay here much longer. Tulali spoke. Linley looked at Bibi, coiling in his arms, and his eyes hardened. Staring at the others, he said, "We have no other choices. We probably won't even be able to spend another day down here before the countless abyssal blade demons surround us. The only option we have is to return to the 10th floor." Linley said firmly. "But how? Linley, you saw yourself just now how those countless abyssal blade demons fully surrounded that exit." Linley took a deep breath. "There is one way." All of the experts looked at Linley. "We'll take a roundabout underground path, and then move towards the exit. When the time comes, all of you help hold them off while I prepare the dimensional edge spell, and kill all of the abyssal blade demons barring our way to the exit." The experts all looked at Linley. They didn't think that this idea of Linley's had a high chance of success. How many abyssal blade demons could a single dimensional edge spell kill? "The dimensional edge spell will cut out a clear path from me to the exit. This path will soon be blocked by other abyssal blade demons, so what we need to do is to pass through the pathway and rush to the 10th floor before the other abyssal blade demons block us again," Linley said. All the experts were silent. To use the dimensional edge to cut a pathway, and then instantly charge to the 10th floor. If they were even slightly too slow, they would be surrounded and killed by the enormous numbers of abyssal blade demons around them. They had to seize that moment. "We have no other options." Linley stared at the other experts. Right now, the vibrations coming from the metallic tunnel walls were growing stronger. Clearly, the many abyssal blade demons were drawing closer and closer to them. "I agree. Let's give it a shot. At least we have a chance." Tulali was the first to speak. Rosary, Desri, and Fane exchanged a glance, then nodded slightly. The two remaining six-eyed golden Ni lions, the black scale scorpion, and Olivier all nodded in agreement. As for Bibi, he didn't voice any objections either. "The most important thing right now is, when we return to the surface, we can't let those abyssal blade demons discover us. When we get near the surface, I will begin to chant the words to the spell, at which point, I won't be able to spare any attention to dealing with those abyssal blade demons," Linley said. "Don't worry. You focus on your dimensional edge spell. If abyssal blade demons come, even if we have to die, we'll make sure we block them," Desri said. The eyes of the experts were all filled with firm resolve. They had to seize their last shot at survival. "Let's head out," Linley said. The black scale scorpion immediately led the way. This time, the experts didn't dare to travel in a straight line, and instead made a winding path as they slowly drew near. Whether it was due to good luck or something else, they didn't encounter their first abyssal blade demon until they were over halfway there. Slash! With a single swipe of his claw, Bibi tore the head of the abyssal blade demon asunder, not even giving it a chance to cry out in alarm. "Everyone, be careful. Right now, we are only 500 meters or so from the exit. The closer we get, the greater the density of abyssal blade demons will be," Desri reminded everyone. Right now everyone was surrounding Linley, who was already beginning to chant the words to the spell. Not good. Roughly 300 meters away from their target, the black scale scorpion suddenly halted. "These abyssal blade demons have dug out an enormous hole around the exit." The black scale scorpion's voice rang out in the experts' minds. All of the experts felt their hearts tremble. Linley's face changed as well, and he immediately stopped chanting the spell. Such a huge pit. If we were to charge past it, we would need to travel hundreds of meters before reaching the exit. Most likely, we would be killed before making it to the exit. The 10 experts all felt stunned. In the air above the ground, countless abyssal blade demons lay waiting, with those two red abyssal blade demons also waiting. Only 300,000 abyssal blade demons were underground searching for Linley, with the greater half of the abyssal blade demons above ground. Naturally, they would be surrounding the area of the enormous hole around the exit. The exit to the 10th floor was originally on ground level, but because of the giant hole dug by the creatures in the metallic ground, the exit was now like a window that was suspended in mid-air. That faint black aura surrounded those steps. Not a single one of the abyssal blade demons dared to pass through that exit. Roughly 10,000 of the abyssal blade demons were currently surrounding the tunnel, forming a watertight seal around it. It seemed as though Linley's group shouldn't be able to charge to the exit at all. Swish. 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 But suddenly, 10 blurs in a row suddenly streaked out into the hole, each of them moving extremely fast and agilely. Linley's group had no other choice. They had to risk everything and go all out, and hope that they would be able to seize that faint hope at life and charge back to the 10th floor. The large numbers of abyssal blade demons simultaneously discovered Linley's group of experts. Kill. The abyssal blade demons reacted very fast. But they still needed a bit of time before reacting, and in that bit of time, Linley's group had flown 200 or 300 meters. They were only a few dozen meters away from the exit now, but those few dozen meters were clogged with countless abyssal blade demons. Finished with the words to his spell, Linley pointed out with one hand. Tempestuous wind elemental essence coalesced around Linley, and the wind for several kilometers around came to a sudden halt. Linley had a vicious look on his face. Through the coiling dragon ring, Linley forcefully summoned a large amount of the surrounding wind elemental essence and utilized all of the mage force in his body, creating a terrifying, faint azure-colored dimensional edge that was 20 meters wide. This was 10 times the width of an ordinary dimensional edge spell. The dimensional edge flew out like a giant spinning blade, and wherever it passed, giant rips appeared in space. Die. Through the coiling dragon ring, Linley utilized his spiritual energy to control the direction of the dimensional edge spell. Right now, Linley could clearly sense the countless revolving wind particles within his dimensional edge. These particles, some moving fast while others moving slow, created this dimensional edge. Countless screams of terror rang out. Wherever this enormous dimensional edge passed, the blocking abyssal blade demons there were chopped into pieces. Linley tried to forcibly slow the movement of the dimensional edge spell to have it block in front of them, but the dimensional edge was simply too fast. Even with Linley controlling it, by the time the dimensional edge spell passed through the exit and to the other side, Linley's group was still roughly 10 meters or so from the exit. Right, just 10 meters. The exit was right in front of their eyes, and all of the abyssal blade demons that had been blocking them were now dead. But, they still had 10 meters to go. Because the dimensional edge spell was 20 meters wide, the abyssal blade demons on each of the two sides were still at least 10 meters away, and these abyssal blade demons weren't able to dodge at all. However, large amounts of abyssal blade demons were charging down from above. The dimensional blade spell, after all, was a flat, two-dimensional spell. Many of the abyssal blade demons were extremely close to Linley's group. Quick! Everyone in Linley's group moved frantically, but countless abyssal blade demons above them were bursting down upon them like a flood. Judging from the distance, Linley could tell that if these abyssal blade demons were permitted to charge down, only 3 of them would be able to flee. Fane, Bibi, and Desri, who were located in the very front. The others wouldn't have a chance to flee at all. Tulili, the 2 six-eyed golden Ni lions, the black scale scorpion. Olivier, right now they had all gone mad, but their eyes had a hint of despair. So close, but not enough time. Hurry! Fane suddenly roared, transforming into a bolt of lightning as he wildly charged towards the abyssal blade demons above them, hoping to block the countless abyssal blade demons for just a moment. But in the blink of an eye, Fane was knocked back down by countless blows from the abyssal blade demons. Ah! Olivier let out a furious howl. An enormous, illusionary sword made from a fusion of black and white light suddenly appeared, killing 4 abyssal blade demons in a single swoop. And then, Olivier fell to the ground, his face utterly ashen. Right now, only Desri and Bibi had entered the exit. The others didn't make it in time. Are we going to die? Whether it was Olivier, the black scale scorpion, Tulili, Rosary, or the 2 six-eyed golden eye lions. Their eyes were all filled with despair. But just at this moment of utter despair, hurry and leave. A furious roar rang out in the minds of the experts. A devilish violet light flashed, and countless violet sword flashes filled the air like countless vipers, spinning and twirling, covering the area directly above them like a barrier, holding the many abyssal blade demons above them at bay. The strange thing was, something astonishing had happened to the abyssal blade demons above them. Their speed had suddenly dramatically lessened. Linley's entire body was now covered with that faint red baleful aura. He had once again activated the baleful aura within Blood Violet. Linley, Olivier, Tulili, Rosary, the 2 six-eyed golden eye lions, and the others all felt shocked, but seeing a chance at life, they all madly rushed into the tunnel. But just as Olivier and the others entered the exit, Linley hadn't had a chance to enter the exit. From all directions, the countless abyssal blade demons had fully sealed off the exit once again. Linley was able to block those above them, but he hadn't been able to block those below and from the other 4 directions. The exit was blocked. Nowhere to flee. Boss! Boss! A black shadow suddenly flashed out from the exit, charging back into the 11th floor. A fierce, desolate voice rang out, "Bibi, leave." Linley roared, his voice thundering in Bibi's consciousness. As soon as Bibi had exited the gateway, he had been knocked back by countless blade blows. As for Linley, those countless abyssal blade demons surrounded him like a horde of locusts. Linley was entirely surrounded by abyssal blade demons in every direction, and even the sun had been blocked out by them. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 35, Fleeing for his life. Kill him! The 2 red abyssal blade demons bellowed from afar. Kill! Countless abyssal blade demons roared, and like house flies smelling the stench of blood, they wildly charged forward. Instantly, with Linley at the center of them, the world all around Linley was filled with countless abyssal blade demons. The light red baleful aura that had already taken visible shape completely surrounded Linley, and his eyes had turned blood red and was filled with savage madness. F***ck off! Linley howled angrily. Instantly, a large number of boulders appeared out of nowhere in every direction around Linley, as well as the gaps between the numerous abyssal blade demons. The abyssal blade demons had to fly, and thus couldn't be too close to each other. In order to be able to wield their blades and to fly, each maintained a distance of approximately 2 or 3 meters from each other. And now, Linley's instacasted boulders blocked off all of the available space for hundreds of meters around him. Where's the Draconian? The countless abyssal blade demons had been able to see Linley from the cracks, but now, with so many giant boulders around them, virtually none of them could see Linley any longer. The countless abyssal blade demons and boulders formed a solid sphere, with Linley in the center. Not good. Those 2 red abyssal blade demons, seeing this, had a bad feeling. The spiritual energy of abyssal blade demons could only stretch out a few meters, which was of no use to them at all. And now with their lines of vision blocked, they didn't dare to wave their weapons wildly, for fear of killing their own people. After all, this solid sphere, aside from countless boulders, also had many abyssal blade demons within it. But there was only a single Linley. Kill! In the same instant that Linley instacast those giant boulders, dozens of abyssal blade demons next to him struck out towards Linley at the same instant. These abyssal blade demons, which were located close to Linley, still knew where he was, and they didn't hesitate at all. Dozens of blades came chopping down. Die. Linley's eyes were filled with boundless rage, and with an angry roar, he swept out with blood violet as fast as lightning as he charged downwards. But no matter how fast he was, around 10 blades still chopped down on Linley's body in an instant. Bang! Linley's pulse-guard defense instantly crumbled. The sacred Earth Guard armor which he had prepared before charging out of the ground also crumbled in an instant. Slash! 3 blades struck down on his draconic scales at the same time, slashing into Linley's body, and even digging deep into Linley's bones, but this heart-piercing pain didn't even make Linley frown. HRMPH, the deep azure dragon blood battle chi in his body exploding, he directly knocked off those 3 blades. Bang! Like a meteor striking the ground, Linley charged down at high speed with that faint red baleful aura surrounding him, making him look like a fiendish god. Any abyssal blade demons which wanted to block him, Linley, not trying to kill them, would immediately sweep out with a sword blow, then rely on the counter force to dodge. The strange thing was, less than a second later, Linley managed to descend from the center of this solid sphere and charge down, entering the ground again. Although this description of how Linley instacast giant boulders to block the countless attacking abyssal blade demons and then charged downwards took a long time to describe, in truth, this all took a total of less than a second. In that short period of time, Linley managed to charge underground. That detestable draconian. Seeing this, a red abyssal blade demon sneered coldly. The other red abyssal blade demon's eyes were also filled with a killing urge. This draconian is simply too vile. In but an instant, he used his magic, to create an underground environment in mid-air, causing the vast majority of our children to be unable to see him. The 2 abyssal blade demons knew that things had just gotten complicated. 10 abyssal blade demons wouldn't be enough to kill Linley, but after he entered the underground area, what should they do? We only have one method. The leading red abyssal blade demon stared at the ground. It will indeed be very hard to get close to him and attack him. What we can do is, have over 10,000 abyssal blade demons simultaneously strike that draconian from afar with energy blade strikes. The other red abyssal blade demon's eyes lit up. Right. There's no need to get close to him. When 10,000 of our abyssal blade demons simultaneously strike him from afar with energy blades, although the power of the attack will be less than half of a close quarters blow, the combined attack of 10,000 of our abyssal blade demons will be enough to render him into mincemeat. When Linley and Fane had emerged from the ground the first time, nearly 1,000,000 abyssal blade demons had simultaneously brandished their blades and chopped down with energy blows covering an area of multiple kilometers, creating an enormous crater of many kilometers across. In addition, even Fane had lost his entire body below his chest, while Linley's legs had been shattered. And, that second of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions had to sacrifice his life to save his big brother and third brother. It must be understood that less than 0.1% of the power of the combined blows of those 1,000,000 abyssal blade demons actually landed on the bodies of Linley's group. But despite that, Fane and Linley had nearly died. Fortunately, Fane and Linley had dove underground head first. Swish! 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 Hundreds of thousands of abyssal blade demons dove underground like sharp arrows, beginning to hunt for Linley. Wiser for their previous experience, these abyssal blade demons definitely would not allow Linley to flee alive. On the 10th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. Stop bothering me! Bibi howled angrily. Right now, Bibi's fur was split open and his flesh was cut into, with blood matting the surrounding grass. The nearby Desri wanted to heal him, but Bibi instead yelled at him. Desri stood there on the grass, then turned to look at the other experts. The black scale scorpion, the 2 six-eyed golden Ni lions, Rosary, Tulili, Olivier, they were all silent and exceedingly downcast. My life was rescued by Linley. Tulili growled. Just then, Linley had somehow managed to suddenly hold off the abyssal blade demons coming from above for an instant, allowing Rosary, Olivier, and Tulili to escape. Otherwise, they would have died. Although Linley had also saved them on the 6th floor when he killed the flame tyrant, this time was different. After all, no matter what, Linley would have killed the flame tyrant, even if it wasn't for their sake. Saving them was just par for the course. Tulili and the others hadn't felt too grateful. But this time was different. Although Linley himself hadn't been able to flee, he could have done nothing at all and allowed Tulili, Olivier, and the others to die alongside him. But Linley didn't do that. Boss. Bibi's eyes were watery. Right now, he was nervously sensing Linley's soul. The 10th floor and the 11th floor were actually two different little dimensions, and Bibi was therefore unable to spiritually speak to Linley. However, as long as Linley didn't die, Bibi could sense Linley's existence. Boss, you have to survive. Bibi's heart was trembling. Hold on, hold on. Bibi knew very well that Linley was being surrounded and attacked by countless abyssal blade demons. As Bibi saw it, if Linley was able to survive more than 10 seconds, then Linley probably would have fled to the underground. Upon reaching the underground, given Linley's ability, it should be possible for him to survive for a few remaining months. I know about the grudge which exists between Linley and the Radiant Church, Rosary said in a low voice. After the day of Linley's wedding, Caesar had ended up staying with Rosary for a few days, and from Caesar, Rosary had learned much regarding Linley's parentage and other details. Even if Linley dies, I will definitely help him get his revenge. And I? Tulili said. My life was saved by Linley. Only after destroying the Radiant Church will I feel a bit better. We two brothers will go as well. The six-eyed golden Ani lion, Cleo, growled. That Linley, in the past, he released us and our father, which was already a great kindness. This time, he saved us two brothers. We definitely have to repay his kindness. In the past, when Linley had pulled out Blood Violet, he had released Dylan. Dylan himself had only found out later from Beirut. Count me in for assisting Linley in his revenge. Olivier suddenly said. You pack of bastards. Bibi bellowed angrily. The nearby experts all couldn't help but turn to stare at Bibi in surprise. Bibi furiously glared at them. Stop farting. Avenge my boss. The boss will avenge himself. The boss will definitely leave the necropolis of the gods alive. All of you, stop saying he's going to die. The boss won't die. Won't die. Fane, Tulili, Cleo, and the other experts, despite feeling grateful towards Linley, knew exactly what perilous straits Linley had been in on the 11th floor. When surrounded by those countless attacking abyssal blade demons, how could he possibly flee and survive? My boss and I are spiritually linked, Bibi said furiously. Bibi, don't know much, but I do know that the boss is still alive. My soul can still sense his existence. Quite some time has passed, but the boss is still alive. I believe that he will definitely survive. The experts all immediately understood. Bibi was Linley's magical beast companion. Bibi could sense whether Linley lived or died. Still alive. Desri and the others felt surprise and joy in their hearts. Although they didn't understand how Linley had escaped from those countless besieging abyssal blade demons, at least he was still alive for now. Only a few months are left to the 10-year period. I hope Linley can hold on. Desri murmured to himself secretly. Not just him, the other experts were all silently praying for Linley. They all knew that to be able to hold on against the attack of a million abyssal blade demons on the 11th floor for months, Linley's chances of life were still quite slim. On the 11th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, the metallic underground was filled with countless tunnels, all formed by those hundreds of thousands of abyssal blade demons which were wildly scurrying everywhere in search of Linley. Roar! An abyssal blade demon bellowed. Instantly, a large number of abyssal blade demons frantically surged towards that area, but they only saw a dark red figure flash by like lightning from the tunnel, only leaving behind some bloodstains and some shattered draconic scales. 3 hours. He had been fleeing for 3 full hours. Ever since he had fled into the underground, countless abyssal blade demons had been chasing him underground. At first, the abyssal blade demons didn't know where Linley was, and so for the first hour, Linley's underground flight had been fairly easy. But after being discovered time and time again in his area of flight, more and more abyssal blade demons had arrived, making it harder and harder for him to flee. During the second hour, Linley had been badly injured and lost a great deal of blood. By the third hour, Linley had nearly died on 2 separate occasions. What to do? What to do? Linley flew at high speed. Whenever he saw a figure from afar, Linley would quickly go into another tunnel, or dig his own. These abyssal blade demons are getting more and more experienced. Linley was feeling frantic. At this moment, a large number of abyssal blade demons were standing guard at designated choke points. Although there were many tunnels underground, with large numbers of abyssal blade demons standing guard at designated locations, Linley often had to create his own tunnels. But whenever Linley created his own tunnels, he would create many powerful tremors in the metal. This vibration would cause the garrison abyssal blade demons to immediately know where Linley's general location was. Just then, Linley thought back to what had happened just 5 minutes ago. More than 1,000 abyssal blade demons had struck at him with distant energy blades. Fortunately, Linley had fled quickly, and only a few dozen energy blades had struck him, but nonetheless, Linley had nearly lost his life. If this continues, there will be even more abyssal blade demons surrounding me. I can't let this continue. Linley knew how bad the situation was. Gruel. Yet another roar was suddenly heard. An abyssal blade demon had flown out from another tunnel at high speed and discovered Linley. Growl. 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 Dozens of growls rang out, and countless abyssal blade demons began to charge wildly towards Linley's general location. Not good. Linley's face instantly turned pale. Compared to 5 minutes ago, the situation now was even more dangerous, and even more abyssal blade demons were coming. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 36, 1 against a million. Swish. Like a ray of light, Linley flashed towards the tunnel, his speed rising to his limit. But in terms of speed, the abyssal blade demons which were on par with Desri and Bibi were a level higher than Linley, and they began to draw near. His eyes utterly bloodshot, as though blazing with flame, Linley was already beginning to chant the words to a spell. Swoosh. Linley's flying direction suddenly changed. He actually turned and flew directly into a different tunnel heading downwards. Actually, there were quite a few abyssal blade demons chasing after him from below as well. As Linley moved downwards, in virtually the blink of an eye, the abyssal blade demons below moving upwards were now moving towards Linley. Roar. The abyssal blade demons below immediately began to roar loudly. The group of abyssal blade demons that were still heading along Linley's previous trajectory immediately turned and headed down, but Linley continued to draw near those 100 or so abyssal blade demons below him. Those 100 abyssal blade demons simultaneously launched lightning-fast waves of blade energy, while Linley's eyes flashed with a cold light. Countless wind elemental essences suddenly coalesced around him. Die. Ryayayayip. Suddenly, a 4 or 5 meter wide, light blue dimensional edge appeared out of nowhere in front of Linley, flying downwards towards those abyssal blade demons charging towards him. Seeing the dimensional edge, the abyssal blade demons all tried to dodge in terror. Unfortunately, the dimensional edge was simply too fast. Ryayayayip. Their metallic bodies were chopped into pieces. Under the control of Linley's spiritual energy, the dimensional edge moved in an arc, instantly chopping dozens of abyssal blade demons into metallic pieces, while the others were dodging in terror. Whoosh! Seizing the opportunity, Linley immediately charged downwards through the corridor which the dimensional edge had just cut. the dimensional edge was only effective against a small number of abyssal blade demons. Once the abyssal blade demons numbered in the thousands, how many of them could the dimensional edge possibly kill? This was the reason why Linley had chosen to suddenly fly downwards. His sudden change in direction had also allowed him to temporarily pull away from the abyssal blade demons behind him. I can flee for a while, but I can't flee forever. Linley, while fleeing downwards, was trying to think of a way to escape and survive. It would be wonderful if I could instacast the dimensional edge. No matter how many abyssal blade demons there were, I would be able to kill them all. Linley suddenly had this wild fantasy. Instacast a dimensional edge? It was nothing more than a dream. Linley knew that it wasn't realistic. HRM. Linley, while scurrying downwards, suddenly had a thought. Dimensional edge. Actually, Linley didn't know too much about the underlying fundamentals regarding this forbidden level spell, dimensional edge. He only knew how to use his mage force to gather elemental essence and then form the dimensional edge. But suddenly, Linley thought back to the scene of him executing the dimensional edge. This dimensional edge, accurately speaking, was the wind blade spell taken to the utmost limits. When using his spiritual energy to slightly control the direction the dimensional edge spell moved in, he noticed that within the dimensional edge, there were countless gusts of wind moving, either quickly or slowly, in accordance with a strange rhythm, and somehow forming this terrifying dimensional cutting power. Either fast, or slow. Linley hadn't considered this before, but now, he suddenly discovered something suspicious. The dimensional edge should be the faster the better. Why is it that it also includes seemingly slow gusts of air inside it as well? Not right. Linley thought hard. The countless gusts of wind within the dimensional edge actually weren't slow, only, they applied the slow aspect and seemed slow but were actually fast. Different wind blades of different aspects formed a whole, the dimensional edge. What was the rationale behind this? The fast aspect? The slow aspect? The dimensional edge. Linley's mind couldn't help but think back to the scene of him utilizing the tempos of the wind. This was a technique which had blood violet simultaneously generate both the fast and the slow aspects of the wind. These two opposite aspects, when combined, caused space itself to vibrate, resulting in blood violet being able to create a spatial edge. Linley once again thought back to the scene of him utilizing myriad swords converge. When developing this technique, Linley was puzzled. Why was it that when 10 million swords of the fast aspect combined into one, it would create the effect of spatial freezing? Why was it that the fast aspect and the slow aspect were mutually interchangeable? At the time, Linley didn't understand the reasoning behind it, but by mimicking the attack of the Queen Mother, he was able to develop this attack. In truth, Linley still didn't understand the profound mysteries behind why the 10 million swords he generated using the fast aspect could combine and form the space-freezing attack of myriad swords converge. Dimensional edge, tempos of the wind, myriad swords converge. Linley's mind quickly sketched through one scene after another. The foggy cloud covering one of the profound mysteries of the elemental laws of the wind was currently slowly dissipating in Linley's mind. Linley was beginning to understand. It was as though he had touched something, but didn't quite understand it. Linley didn't even notice that behind him, two abyssal blade demons were drawing closer and closer. Right now, Linley was totally immersed in that special state. The two abyssal blade demons also felt puzzled. Normally, even before drawing close to Linley, Linley would come up with an idea to flee. But this time, Linley was flying in a straight line, not changing direction at all. The abyssal blade demons flew faster than Linley. In a straight line, they would naturally be able to catch up. Swish! An ear-piercing, desolate howl suddenly scared Linley awake as two blades chopped down at him. Linley's back was instantly matted in cold sweat, and he immediately lashed out with blood violet. Linley hadn't noticed at all that this attack wasn't the tempos of the wind, nor was it myriad swords converge. It was a seemingly very ordinary sword attack. Slash. It was like cutting through tofu. Linley's blood violet flashed through the two abyssal blade demons like lightning, both of whom were immediately cut into two. This. Linley was shocked. Although these two abyssal blade demons weren't the best of their race, even if Linley had used Tempos of the Wind, he would still have to use a full-strength blow in order to chop the abyssal blade demons into two pieces. But just then, he had very easily bisected the two abyssal blade demons. Just then, Linley couldn't help but think back to that sword attack he had unconsciously used just then. Ah! Linley's eyes suddenly turned round. That fog that had still covered his mind, preventing it from seeing into the mysteries of the elemental laws of the wind, suddenly disappeared like mist disappearing under the light of the sun. He suddenly understood. Tempos of the wind? Myriad swords converge? Dimensional edge. Linley began to laugh loudly. The fast aspect? The slow aspect? Fast and slow being opposite aspects? Haha, wrong, all wrong. The fast aspect and the slow aspect are the same, the same. Linley's entire body began to shake from excitement. A gust of wind would seemingly blow slowly, but then in the blink of an eye move 1,000 meters. Spatial folding? Spatial chaos? Spatial pausing? Spatial freezing. Linley's laughter reached the utmost level in joy. The Draconian. A large number of abyssal blade demons had discovered Linley. Kill. Roaring furiously, the many abyssal blade demons simultaneously struck out, chopping down with energy blades towards Linley. The criss-crossing waves of energy chopped apart even the ground. Although many of them didn't land on Linley, a few of them did indeed concentrate on Linley's body. Boom. Wherever the energy blades passed, the metallic ground and tunnel were turned into smithereens. He's dead for sure. Huh. Suddenly, the abyssal blade demons were shocked. Linley, who had been thousands of meters away, had suddenly appeared in front of them in two casual flashes. They only saw a strange, devilish flash of violet light, and then their heads went flying off. The fast aspect, the slow aspect, haha, they are all wrong paths of understanding. Linley laughed loudly. With each casual strike of his sword, he easily killed the abyssal blade demons, and with a simple flicker of his body, he easily threw off the abyssal blade demons and moved far away. In terms of speed, he was now 3 times as fast as the abyssal blade demons. He was simply too fast. Even if the 2 red abyssal blade demons came over, they wouldn't be more than half of Linley's current speed. In the past, I thought that if I could reach the limit of the fast aspect, I would become a deity. If I reached the peak of the slow aspect, I should also be able to become a deity. Yes, I can become a deity, but doing so in that way is taking a wrong path. Linley's heart was filled with joy, as though he had suddenly completed a massive project. Once the fast aspect and the slow aspect each reach their utmost limits, they will merge together. Both fast and slow, these 2 major aspects, they are all part of the elemental laws of the winds. Profound truths of velocity. Blood violet flashed out casually in Linley's hands. At first, it seemed to be moving extremely slowly, but at second glance, it was actually as fast as lightning. From different viewpoints, one would see 2 completely different effects. In addition, at the edge of blood violet, there was a faint blue spatial edge that seemed similar to the dimensional edge. With a casual sword blow, space itself began to ripple, and extremely minute cracks in space appeared. Any casual blow from Linley now had part of the power of the dimensional edge. Linley's form quickly appeared in multiple areas, and wherever that devilish violet light flashed, the heads of the abyssal blade demons went flying. This technique shall be called, Profound Truths of Velocity, Dimensional Decapitator. Swish. Linley's body suddenly scurried out of the ground. Haha, he came out. Children, kill. Those 2 red abyssal blade demons immediately gave the order in excitement. Countless howling sounds could be heard as the hundreds of thousands of abyssal blade demons charged downwards like a horde of locusts, sending out energy blades towards Linley at nearly the same instant. But Linley's body had already appeared in the center of their group. Like a gust of wind, Linley flickered here and there, and wherever he appeared, the heads of the abyssal blade demons would go flying. In front of Linley, these abyssal blade demons had no ability to fight back at all. Miserable screams and terrified howls sounded out constantly, and golden blood splashed in every direction. In a very short period of time, nearly 100,000 abyssal blade demons had died. All the remaining abyssal blade demons were terrified. At first, they still had willpower, but now they had none left at all. Impossible. The two red abyssal blade demons called out in terror. And then, a gentle gust of wind blew towards them. The head of one of the two red abyssal blade demons went flying, while Linley's blood-violet sword appeared at the neck of the second red abyssal blade demon. His dark golden eyes stared calmly at the red abyssal blade demon. In a calm voice, he said, "What, you still want to fight? Mercy, Lord." The red abyssal blade demon immediately knelt down in terror. With their leader kneeling, the countless abyssal blade demons whom Linley had utterly terrified all knelt down as well. The 11th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. Across this wide expanse of land, countless corpses lay fallen, while countless living abyssal blade demons knelt there on the ground, so terrified that they didn't even have the courage to raise their heads. That terrifying slaughter just now had truly destroyed their courage. The countless abyssal blade demons remained kneeling. The wide expanse of land was stained with golden blood. Only Linley remained standing. Sadly, I haven't understood enough regarding the fast and the slow aspects. Linley thought back to the profound truth he had just gained insight into. Although I fused two major aspects into one and developed the profound truths of velocity of the elemental laws of the wind, I'm still one step away from becoming a deity. Right now, Linley could sense that he was at the precipice of the deity level. Actually, both the fast and the slow aspects, when trained to their utmost, could allow someone to become a demigod. And then, after the two aspects were totally fused into the profound truths of velocity, which was then trained to the limit, one would become a full god. These two aspects were seemingly polar opposites. To fuse them wasn't something one could mentally envision, it had to come from a spark of insight. The higher one's level of understanding was in the two aspects, the harder it would be to fuse them. It was as if one had traveled a long distance on two roads heading in different directions. The farther one traveled on each road, the harder it would be to combine them. Linley hadn't reached a very high level of understanding in these two aspects yet, and so it was actually a bit easier for him to find that spark of insight to fuse them. In the past, when developing his tempos of the wind, Linley had begun to understand how to allow these two aspects to work together. Upon developing the myriad swords converge, he once more advanced. After casting the dimensional edge spell, he suddenly had that insight, reaping the benefits of his accumulated experience and coming to understand the true profound truths of velocity. Thus, his movement speed instantly increased threefold or fourfold, and he was able to develop an even more powerful sword technique, the dimensional decapitator. Do you know where the divine spark is? Linley lowered his head to glance at the kneeling, quivering red abyssal blade demon. I know. The red abyssal blade demon was terrified that Linley would kill him. Lead the way, Linley said. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 37, Divine Spark. The metallic ground flashed with cold light. Countless abyssal blade demons knelt on that ground respectfully in terror, while in mid-air, their leader, the red abyssal blade demon, respectfully led Linley. And the two transformed into rays of light towards the direction of the divine spark. There were, in total, 3 necropolis of the gods which were connected to the Yulan continent. This necropolis of the gods connected to the underground tunnel at the bottom of the South Sea was the most dangerous one and the largest one. On this 11th floor of the necropolis of the gods, ever since it had been constructed, not a single saint-level expert had been successful in acquiring the treasures hidden within the floor. Linley was the first. The wind blew, stirring Linley's long hair. Linley was already back in human form, casually draping a long robe over his body. The wind rustled through it, occasionally revealing his bare chest. After having gained insight into the profound truths of velocity, whether or not a dragon form no longer makes much of a difference. Linley was wielding Blood Violet in his hands. Blood Violet's dimensional decapitator ability could be described as a miniature dimensional etch. Any saints who touched it would die. The red abyssal blade demon led the way nervously. Suddenly, the red abyssal blade demon halted. "Are we there?" Linley asked. The red abyssal blade demon pointed off into the distance and said respectfully, "Lord, the treasure of the 11th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods is atop the mountain peak over there." Linley gazed in the direction of the abyssal blade demon's finger. Off in the distance, there was indeed a small metallic mountain, but this mountain was covered with a large number of abyssal blade demons, and even in the air above it, there were many abyssal blade demons hovering. What's this?" Linley frowned. Terrified, the red abyssal blade demon hastened to explain. "Lord, in the past, we were afraid that intruders would run wild and arrive here. Therefore, we arranged several tens of thousands of abyssal blade demons to be stationed here and watch over this important treasury location. It seems you were quite thorough." Linley laughed calmly. The red abyssal blade demon said hurriedly, "Lord, don't worry. I'll immediately order them to stand down." As he spoke, the red abyssal blade demon immediately flew towards that mountain. On the 3rd level of the Necropolis of the Gods, a cold wind was blowing. Aside from a few corpses of saints, the only one remaining here was the still slumbering Ba serpent. Whoosh! Hiss! Each time the Ba serpent exhaled, that black energy came out. The only sound in the 3rd floor was that familiar snoring. All of a sudden, the Ba serpent's enormous body, wrapped around that giant iceberg, suddenly vanished. Unexpectedly, a human succeeded. A devilish young man, a slender body and devilish, flowing green hair, stood there in mid-air. He wore a patterned blue robe over his body, and the patterns on the blue robe, on close inspection, appeared to be those of a snake's skin. He succeeded. That means I'm more or less free as well. There's no need for me to remain here on these 11 floors any longer. He revealed a smile on his face. Unfortunately, I still have to wait for Lord Baruch to come over. I'll have to at least wait for a few more months. After having been here for so long though, a few more days won't matter. A large number of abyssal blade demons were beating a hasty retreat, allowing Linley to fly to the peak of the mountain. Whoosh! A heart-stopping aura surged towards him. Linley's eyes lit up. And he stared carefully at that mountain peak. There was a heap of precious treasures placed atop the flat, enormous stone on top of the mountain. The most attractive of them, however, was naturally those 3 divine sparks, which emanated a divine aura. Aside from the 3 divine sparks, the enormous flat stone also had a series of divine artifacts. 10 of them. 3 divine sparks, 10 divine artifacts. The Almighty Sovereign is truly quite generous. Linley felt his heart rate speed up. After all, countless saints had dreamed about acquiring just a single divine spark, but now, 3 of them were placed in front of him. Not worrying about anything else, Linley immediately walked over to the flat boulder to carefully inspect those 3 divine sparks. Those 3 divine sparks were the same color. All of them were black. Only, within the hearts of the 3 divine sparks, 2 of them emanated a faint light, 1 of them emanated a faint blue light, while the other one emanated an earthen yellow light. As for the last one, it didn't emanate any light at all. Instead, it had a strange, hidden aura emanating forth from it. One is earth style, while the other is wind style. The last one is destruction style. Linley frowned. and the divine sparks here on the 11th floor should all be demigod sparks. What is going on? Linley's heart was filled with suspicion. Could it be that the controller of this necropolis of the gods knew that the person acquiring the treasures would be someone who trained in the profound truths of these two elemental laws of the wind and the earth? Linley knew very well that this destruction-style divine spark actually belonged to the way of destruction. Linley, being a practitioner of the sword, could also train in this way. 3 divine sparks, and I'm capable of using any of them. How could there be such a coincidence? Precisely 3 of them. Linley stared at the 3 divine sparks in front of him, a strong sense of suspicion in his mind. Linley turned his head and stared around him. He suddenly had a feeling as though everything going on in the necropolis of the gods was being watched by the sovereign from on high. Perhaps, Linley looked at the 3 divine sparks. These 3 divine sparks were only placed here after I gained insight into the profound truths of velocity. Perhaps an ultimate expert stealthily placed them here afterwards. Linley couldn't help but suspect this. After all, this was simply too great a coincidence. Exactly 3 divine sparks? Why weren't they lightning style, or light style, or fire style? They all suited Linley's nature and elements. I should feel proud to have been looked after by the sort of ultimate expert. Linley self-mocked silently. Linley no longer pondered this question. No matter what, he was currently just a person who had only reached the doorstep to becoming a deity, and was only a prime saint, not yet a god. There were many secrets and mysteries which he was not yet qualified to be a part of yet. I can already dimly sense the deity level. Most likely, once I go back and train, in a few dozen years, I will reach the deity level. Linley, after becoming aware of the profound truths of velocity, could already faintly sense his current level of understanding. Linley had heard the war god speak of this before as well. Becoming a deity by oneself was hundreds of times more difficult than fusing a divine spark. Linley stretched out his hand, immediately grasping those 3 divine sparks, then drawing them into his interspatial ring. Even if I personally don't use these 3 divine sparks, I can give them to Delia and Warden to use. Given Delia and Warden's levels of talent, it would be extremely difficult for them to become deities on their own. Just by looking at how Fane and Desri had been stuck at the doorway to deityhood for thousands of years, one could imagine how hard it was. Linley himself was fortunate enough that after developing the tempos of the wind, he encountered the Queen Mother's attack and by mimicking it, developed the myriad swords converge. Afterwards, due to reaching the Grand Mega Saint level, he was able to clearly sense the mysteries hidden within the dimensional etch. With this chain of 3 events. In addition, Linley only had some insights in the fast and slow, and they weren't at a very high level yet. In terms of power, the profound truths of velocity were actually a level higher than the profound truths of the earth. The profound truths of velocity could be said to be one of the highest, most profound mysteries of the elemental laws of the wind. I wonder how Delia, Taylor, Sasha, and Warden are doing. Linley couldn't help but think of his family. And I don't know how Barker, Linley, in his heart, was still worried about whether Barker was alive or not. Linley sighed in his heart. And then, Linley looked at the 10 divine artifacts. These 10 divine artifacts included saber, sword, and spear-type weapons, a black book, a mysterious crystal ball, and a set of battle armor. Deity-level battle armor. Battle armor. Linley felt joy in his heart. Linley didn't care too much about the other divine artifacts, after all, he already had the adamantine heavy sword and blood violet. The black book and crystal ball were most likely darkness-style or necromantic-style divine artifacts. Linley wouldn't be able to use them well. Linley immediately stored these 10 divine artifacts into his interspatial ring. These divine artifacts would be useful as gifts to Delia, Taylor, Sasha, and the others. Linley laughed as he stared around the mountain peak. It seems there aren't any other treasures here. Oh, right, this. Linley stared at the flat boulder where the divine artifacts had been stored. A rich person certainly behaves generously. Even this boulder used to hold these divine artifacts is a treasure. Linley stored the giant boulder into his interspatial ring as well. This enormous flat boulder was actually something he had read about in the books. Bloodstone. Bloodstones were almost as valuable as adamantine ore. It was a type of treasure from other planes. Whether made into magus tools or weapons, it was an extremely good type of material. If one used materials such as bloodstones and adamantine to forge a weapon, one could make a divine artifact. Linley's adamantine heavy sword, although a good weapon, wasn't actually a divine artifact. With a smile, Linley descended from the air, flying away from the mountain. The distant red abyssal blade demon waited nervously. Linley hadn't ordered him to leave, so he didn't dare to leave on his own, for fear that Linley would kill him in anger. "Congratulations, Lord." The red abyssal blade demon, seeing Linley fly over, immediately said respectfully. Linley glanced at the red abyssal blade demon. Then noticed that blood-red blade on its back. Reaching out with his hand, Linley pointed to the warblade on the red abyssal blade demon's back. "Right. Your blade, as well as the warblades from the other two red abyssal blade demons. Bring them to me." "Huh?" The red abyssal blade demon stared at Linley in shock. "Didn't you hear me?" Linley frowned. "Lord, this warblade was naturally created from my body. It took me hundreds of thousands of years." The red abyssal blade demon was somewhat unwilling. These abyssal blade demons were made of blades, but the most powerful blade was the one on their backs. That was the place where their essence was concentrated, and that blade was incomparably hard and powerful. Originally, when Linley's group had encountered that ordinary abyssal blade demon on the 10th floor, the sharpness of its blade was already approaching that of a divine artifact. The blades of the red abyssal blade demons were definitely at the divine artifact level. After developing the dimensional decapitator and slaughtering the abyssal blade demons, he had discovered that his dimensional decapitator was completely unable to damage the warblades of the abyssal blade demons. One could imagine how sharp and tough they were. HRM. Linley frowned, staring coldly at the red abyssal blade demon. Life or blade? Which one was more important? This question didn't need to be asked. "Right, Lord. I'll immediately send people to obtain the other two warblades." The red abyssal blade demon, terrified, immediately pulled out the blade from his back, respectfully offering it to Linley. "Right. Bring me 1,000 warblades from the ordinary abyssal blade demons as well," Linley said casually. Although the red abyssal blade demon was astonished, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, Linley had killed 100,000 abyssal blade demons. 1,000 warblades wasn't much. Only, he secretly said to himself, this expert in front of him was perhaps a bit too that. He was already so powerful, but he still wanted so many warblades. "Although I don't need it, I can give it to the descendants of the clan," Linley said to himself secretly. Even the warblades of ordinary abyssal blade demons were comparable to the adamantine heavy blade in preciousness. This sort of warblade would definitely be considered an extremely valuable weapon on the Yulan continent. "Unfortunately, my interspatial ring isn't big enough," Linley secretly said to himself. If it was larger, Linley would perhaps take even more, but 1,000 warblades was already enough. After storing the 1,000 warblades and the 3 red warblades into his interspatial ring, with countless abyssal blade demons kneeling towards him, Linley returned to the 10th exit. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 38, Desiring a Divine Spark. On the 10th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. "Bibi, how is Linley currently?" Desri asked softly. "The boss is still alive and kicking." Bibi's wounds had already been more than half healed, but he was still focused entirely on sensing Linley's existence, terrified that Linley might die. As for Tulali and Rosary and the others, all of the experts were waiting quietly off to one side. Only from Bibi would they learn that Linley was still alive. Tulali could sense how depressing the mood amongst the experts was. In order to change the mood, he said, "Olivier, the power of that sword attack you displayed on the 11th floor really was quite formidable. You were able to kill 4 of those abyssal blade demons with a single blow. I remember that sword attack as well." The Black Scale Scorpion said. "I don't think any of the rest of us can accomplish that," Tulali said. When the experts had been trying to flee back to the 10th floor, Olivier, in desperation, had unleashed his most powerful sword attack, and when that black and white illusionary sword had chopped out, it had immediately chopped 4 of the abyssal blade demons to death. These abyssal blade demons were formed from tough metal, even if their defenses weren't as strong as their attacks. To kill 4 abyssal blade demons with a single sword blow was too hard. Even Linley had to utilize either the profound truths of the earth or the tempos of the wind to kill a single abyssal blade demon. An ordinary sword blow wouldn't be able to chop the abyssal blade demons into 2 parts. But of course, after gaining insight into the dimensional decapitator, Linley's sword blows could easily kill 5 or 6 abyssal blade demons per hit. For Olivier to have been able to kill 4 of the abyssal blade demons was a sight which truly stunned everyone present. After all, Tulali and the others couldn't accomplish this. "This attack is my last resort, desperation ultimate attack. After utilizing it, my spiritual energy is all but wiped out," Olivier said. "Despite that, it's still very powerful. Even going all out, my attacks aren't as powerful." Tulali laughed self-mockingly. The various experts all sighed in amazement at Oliver's rate of progress. When they had just entered the Necropolis of the Gods, Olivier could only be considered a memory of the second group, but after the past 10 years, Oliver's strength had increased dramatically and his attacks had reached such a tremendous level of power. Olivier didn't explain any further. The only reason he had his current level of achievements was because the near-death experience he previously had. "In the past, when we encountered that Beholder King, we knew that you had some differences compared to us." Desri sighed as well. Now that everyone was chatting, the atmosphere on the 10th floor improved a bit. None of them noticed, however, that Bibi's lowered head suddenly rose up, staring in astonishment towards that distant stone pillar. "Boss!" A cry of surprised joy rang out. Swish! A black blur charged over. "What?" Desri, Tulali, Olivier, and the other experts all turned to stare towards the exit to the 11th floor in astonishment. They saw a youngster dressed in a sky blue robe, exchanging grins with a black shadow mouse. Linley had returned. "Boss! Bibi!" Linley was currently holding Bibi in his arms, and the man and the magical beast laughed, staring at each other. "Wonderful, boss! I missed you terribly. I was afraid you wouldn't make it back, boss." Bibi's beady little eyes were turning misty. The past 3 or 4 hours had been a type of torture for Bibi. He was afraid that Linley really would die. At this time, Desri, Fane, Olivier, Rosarie, Tulali, the 2 six-eyed golden eye lions, and the black scale scorpion immediately hurried over. They, too, felt both astonishment and joy that Linley was able to return to the 10th floor. "Linley, you managed to escape," Fane said with surprised joy. "I really didn't expect that despite being pursued by a million abyssal blade demons, you were still able to return to the 10th floor, Linley." Desri's face was covered in smiles as he spoke. "I thought that you were trying to delay underground as long as you could, and hold the abyssal blade demons off until the 10-year period was up. Think about how awesome my boss is." Bibi immediately began to grow boastful. He stood up high on Linley's shoulders, his little paws folded proudly over his chest. Linley laughed. "Do you think I didn't want to try and delay and hold them off? But those abyssal blade demons were simply too clever. They set up enormous numbers of choke points in the center area, and whenever I was discovered, they would immediately have large numbers of abyssal blade demons attack me simultaneously. After holding on for 3 hours, I simply couldn't hold on any further. Then Linley, how did you return? Fane and the others stared at Linley in confusion. Fane and the other experts simply couldn't imagine how, under the pursuit and assault of the abyssal blade demons, Linley had managed to flee to the 10th floor. Luckily enough, at the critical moment, I suddenly had a breakthrough, and my speed rapidly increased, allowing me to easily throw off those abyssal blade demons. After killing a few of those abyssal blade demons, I managed to acquire the divine spark of the 11th floor, and then I returned home safely. Linley said these words quite calmly. But everyone, including Bibi, was stunned. You retrieved the divine spark. Fane, Desri, Rosary, Tulili, and the other experts stared, their eyes round and shocked. Even Olivier, who stood silently behind the others, stared at Linley with hard-to-disguise amazement. Divine spark. The treasure which Fane and the others had dreamed about acquiring. Upon acquiring the divine spark of a demigod, they would become deities. The difference between a saint and a deity was as great as that of the earth and the heavens. Linley, congratulations. Desri was the first to recover. All he could do was say congratulations. The other experts forced out smiles and congratulated Linley as well. Right now, Desri and the others felt hard to repress envy in their hearts. After all, they had worked for simply too long to acquire a divine spark. Now that Linley had it, there was nothing they could say, as Linley had risked his life to acquire it. But in their hearts, they still felt a hint of envy. In fact, their envy made it so that they couldn't help but think about killing Linley and stealing his divine spark, but as soon as that idea came to their minds, it immediately was tossed aside. After all, they weren't despicable people like that. In this group, aside from Bibi, only a single person didn't feel much envy. That person was Olivier. Linley, I expect you will become the 6th deity of our Yulon continent. Oliver's face revealed a hint of a smile. Linley, you are more powerful than me right now, but, in a few more years, I will definitely challenge you. Olivier felt extremely confident in himself. He was weaker than Linley, but that was just for now. Challenge. Linley looked at Olivier, nodding and laughing. Wonderful, I'll accompany you any time you choose. After Linley returned to the 10th floor, the experts all comfortably awaited the conclusion of the 10-year time period, and they all went to find places to rest and relax on the grass. As for Linley, he naturally was with Bibi. Boss, tell me, how many divine sparks were there on the 11th floor? I expect there was more than just one. Bibi whispered. Linley smiled. 3. Bibi's little eyes instantly turned as round as the moon, and then he grinned so wide, his little mouth nearly split open. Wow, wonderful, 3 divine sparks. Boss, what element were those divine sparks? Bibi hurriedly asked. Are they compatible with you, boss? I hope those 3 divine sparks aren't of fire, lightning, or something like that. One is earth style, one is wind style, one is destruction style. Linley raised his head and looked up meaningfully. They are extremely compatible with me. Bibi was shocked as well. How could there be such a coincidence? How should I know? Linley chuckled, then shook his head and sighed. Unfortunately, I am too weak and don't have the power to go up to the 12th floor or higher. Huh? Bibi stared at his boss in confusion. Boss, why do you want to go even higher? The 12th floor is only suitable for deities to challenge. If we go, that's as good as throwing away our lives. Bibi also knew that from the 12th floor onwards, the guardians of each floor were all deities. Without the power of a deity, entering was certain death. Bibi, before we entered the 11th floor, I told you that there is something in the necropolis of the gods which is calling to me. Linley sighed, while Bibi cocked his little head. Ever since I arrived here in the necropolis of the gods, I had the feeling that whatever is calling to me is coming from above. When I entered the 10th floor, I still felt that whatever was calling me was calling from above. At that time, I thought that perhaps it was in the 11th floor. Linley shook his head. But after I entered the 11th floor, I realized that I was wrong. The presence which was calling to me was still higher. Perhaps it is on the 12th floor, or perhaps the 13th, it might even be as high as the 18th. Who knows? After all, I'm not strong enough to go higher. Bibi nodded slightly. After Linley had been on the 10th floor for roughly a month, Desri came to Linley's area. He was hesitating slightly, unable to speak. Desri, what is it? Linley asked in confusion. Desri seemed rather embarrassed. He let out 2 dry laughs, took a deep breath, then whispered, Linley, I would like to know, how many divine sparks did you find on the 11th floor? Linley's heart moved. This Desri, it seemed, had some desire towards his divine sparks. However, Linley could understand why. 3. Linley didn't try to hide it. Desri's eyes lit up. Can I ask what elements they were? Desri, why are you asking? The nearby Bibi said angrily. These divine sparks, my boss only acquired after risking his life. Don't forget that if the boss hadn't used his dimensional edge to open up a pathway and then blocked all of those abyssal blade demons, none of you would have survived. Desri looked rather awkward. Linley glanced at Bibi, then smiled towards Desri. There's no reason for me not to speak of it. They are of the earth style, the wind style, and the destruction style. Oh. Desri nodded. Linley, there's something I need to tell you. Desri looked at Linley. First of all, you don't necessarily have to fuse with a divine spark of your own element. For example, you are totally capable of fusing with a fire-style divine spark. But of course, the speed would be very slow. To absorb a divine spark, the only requirement is that a person be at the saint level, which would allow his soul to be able to fuse with the divine spark. Linley nodded slightly. In addition, every saint can only fuse a single spark. Desri explained. This, I know. Linley nodded. Desri hesitated, but in the end, still forced out a smile and said, Linley, you only need a single divine spark for yourself. If, and I'm only saying if you were willing, would you be willing to, one of your divine sparks? At this point, Desri didn't know what to say. What should he say? Ask Linley to sell it? What could he, Desri, possibly exchange for a divine spark? Ask Linley to gift it to him? Desri couldn't even force out the words to ask. The only reason why he had come and so shamelessly discussed this was Linley was because he simply had too great of a desire to become a deity. Even if the element was different and his rate of fusion was slow, and his future rate of understanding the laws would be impeded, he didn't care. Aside from Olivier and those 2 six-eyed golden Ni lions, the other experts all have this wish. Linley secretly said to himself. Over the past few months, almost all of the other experts had secretly come over to talk with Linley. Even if Linley himself didn't need the divine sparks, he still valued them highly. It must be understood, that a single divine spark represented a demigod. He could give these 3 divine sparks to Gates and his brothers, or to his own brother Wharton, and let them become deities. Let me delay for now. Linley secretly said to himself. The experts only hinted at their interest. After all, their lives had been saved by Linley, and Linley had only managed to acquire these divine sparks after an extremely dangerous experience. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire necropolis of the gods began to shake. What's going on? Linley and Bibi immediately turned their heads to stare about them. Instantly, they saw that off in the distance, an exit covered by a black aura had appeared out of nowhere. From within that black exit, a person walked out. He had long black hair, a long black beard, and wore a long black robe. It was the #1 expert of the Yulon continent. Beirut. Linley, Desri, Tulili, all the experts immediately stood up. Beirut glanced at the experts, and then said, "The 10 years are up. Everyone can now leave the necropolis of the gods." And then, he turned his gaze to Linley, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Ha ha, Linley, I must congratulate you." Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 39, The Predictions of Beirut. "Grandpa Beirut, you already know what happened." Bibi instantly rushed over to him. Beirut beamed as he hugged Bibi, nodding. "I manage the necropolis of the gods on behalf of the Almighty Sovereign. Of course I know what happened within the necropolis of the gods." Beirut cast Linley an amused, meaningful glance. Linley suddenly understood. Perhaps it was Beirut who had placed those 3 divine sparks there for him. If the person to successfully overcome the challenges of the 11th floor had been Olivier, perhaps the divine sparks would have become of light style, darkness style, and destruction style instead. But of course, this was just Linley's hypothesis. "Linley." Beirut laughed calmly as he looked at Linley. "I trust you have already had a dim sense of the deity level. You should be at the precipice now, yes?" Linley nodded, secretly saying to himself, "It seems that Beirut knows everything which happened within the necropolis of the gods. Beirut, he should be the housekeeper for the sovereign, in charge of managing this necropolis of the gods." Linley understood. The necropolis of the gods was nothing more than a game to the sovereign, so he could send any one of his subordinates down to manage it. Only, any one of the subordinates of a sovereign was someone far and above Linley's level. "If my prediction is correct, within 10 years, you should reach the deity level," Beirut said. Linley's profound truths of velocity included both the fast and the slow aspects. If Linley were to fully master the profound truths of velocity, then he would have fully mastered and fused those 2 major aspects into one, and he would have risen to the full god level. 10 years. Linley murmured to himself, then nodded slightly. This speed was roughly on par with what he had anticipated. The nearby Desri, Fane, and other experts all looked at Linley in shock. They all knew what Beirut was saying. Linley, not by relying on a divine spark, and only by relying on his own insights, would be able to reach the deity level, and it would be within 10 years. Even if Linley had been training since the day he was born, he would have been training for around half a century. 10 more years would only be 60+ years. In 60 years, he would have reached the deity level by his own efforts. But Linley, you'd best not slacken off. The potential of that young fellow, Olivier, is perhaps even a bit higher than yours. Beirut laughed calmly, turning to look at Olivier. These words instantly stunned Desri, Tulili, and the other experts. If Linley was powerful, fine. After all, in the necropolis of the gods, based on his performance, Linley was clearly more powerful than them, and he had single-handedly procured divine sparks on the 11th floor. They admitted inferiority to him. But Olivier? Linley was rather surprised as well. "Lord Beirut." Olivier paid his respects. Beirut smiled and nodded. "Your luck wasn't bad. You were able to fuse both light and darkness without your soul being destroyed. I've wandered through countless planes, but situations like yours are rare, incredibly rare. Even I am rather envious of what you have become." Oliver's face changed slightly. Although Beirut hadn't said it openly, Olivier could tell that this Beirut knew his secret. Could it be that this Beirut is capable of inspecting my soul? Olivier was somewhat astonished. He didn't know that Beirut was so powerful that he could even easily riffle through someone's memories without them knowing about it. Compared to that, how trifling a matter would it be for him to inspect Oliver's soul? Linley looked towards Olivier as well. This Olivier, when we encountered the Beholder King and were hit by the Beholder King's attack, I became utterly helpless, but Olivier was able to break the Beholder King's technique. Bibi had later told Linley about what had happened. At the time, the Beholder King had been quite surprised by Oliver's soul as well. Based on your current rate of improvement, if my prediction is correct, in 10 years if you are fast, 50 years if you are slow, you should reach the deity level as well. Beirut said with a calm laugh. No wonder Olivier was so confident to say that after training for a few years, he would come challenge me. Linley had a hint of anticipation in his heart as well. Previously, he hadn't paid much attention to Oliver's words, as he now possessed the profound truths of velocity. He had only replied out of politeness. But now, Linley rather looked forward to it. Desri, Fane, Rosary, and the other experts felt their hearts clench. What a difference! They had trained for thousands of years, but compared to Linley and Olivier, the difference between them was simply too great. Lord Beirut, might you tell us how long we need until we can reach the deity level? Desri said respectfully. Rosary, Tulili, even the two six-eyed golden eye lions and the black scale scorpion all looked towards Beirut with anticipation. They wanted to hear Beirut's judgment. Given Beirut's power, it was very easy for him to judge the level of understanding a saint was at. Beirut glanced at them. For you to reach the deity level, HRM, if you are fast, just 1 or 2 days. The eyes of Tulili, Desri, and the other experts all lit up. But if you are slow, it could take you trillions of years. Beirut finished, causing Tulili and the others to be utterly stunned. These experts deeply desired to become deities. This was their reason for existence, the goal they had pursued for thousands of years, which they had never reached. Beirut shook his head and laughed. You young fellows, there is such a thing as genius, and both Linley and Olivier can be considered geniuses. In addition, the profound truths which they are training in are more powerful than yours. Beirut said with a lecturing air. Desri, Fane, and the other experts who had trained for thousands of years all listened obediently, as though they were children listening to a lecture. Your vision is too narrow and limited. You must understand, these countless dimensions possess countless material planes, but your gaze is limited to just the Yulan continent. Genius. Amongst the geniuses I have seen, one of them reached the deity level 10 years after being born, but I've also met those who have trained for tens of millions of years while being trapped at the saint level. Linley and Olivier were both stunned. Reach the deity level 10 years after birth? This was simply monstrous. Could it be some sort of divine beast race? But even a divine beast such as Bibi would take nearly 100 years to grow into maturity. Linley, Olivier. Beirut looked at the two of them. The Yulan continent has existed for countless years, and the experts it has produced are numerous beyond measure. But of course, in the past 100,000 years, the two of you can be considered to be the two most talented. Linley and Olivier didn't display a hint of self-satisfaction. But if we look at the countless planes of the universe, there are simply far too many people who are greater geniuses than you two. Beirut sighed. There are some geniuses whom even I can only stare at in dumbfounded awe. Linley and Olivier both nodded slightly. At their current level, they had a greater vision than before. In addition, there are some races that are exceedingly powerful, such as those races you encountered in the Necropolis of the gods. The Beholder race, or that Lachapel, and so on. These races are naturally powerful. There is nothing which the boundless universe does not contain. Beirut turned to look at Desri and the other experts. Desri and the other experts had a rather unpleasant feeling in their hearts. After becoming powerful, don't grow complacent. As for Fane and the rest of you, don't underestimate yourselves. After all, in the Yulan continent, you are already at the top of the mountain. In the countless plains, there are even people who have trained for tens of millions of years without being able to reach the deity level. There are plenty of people far inferior to you. Desri, Fane, and the other experts could only laugh bitterly in their hearts. There were many people they were superior to, but also many they were inferior to. The most important thing is having self-confidence. Baruch said seriously. Actually, I've discovered that in your hearts, you've all begun to doubt yourselves. You've become worried over having been at the prime saint level for so long, and thus you entrusted your hopes to getting a divine spark. Wrong. Baruch shook his head. If even you yourselves doubt yourselves and don't have strong faith in yourselves, how can you possibly break through to the deity level? Desri, Fane, and the other experts all felt their hearts tremble. Indeed, they had all entrusted their hopes to finding a divine spark, and deep in their hearts, they had begun to doubt their own ability. But Linley and Olivier are different. They believe in themselves, believe that they will be able to train to the highest levels, and so they truly have continued to advance, making one breakthrough after another. Baruch sighed appreciatively. This was indeed the truth. Linley's heart had always been focused on reaching the limits of training, never doubting his own ability. As for Olivier, when he had first left the O'Brien Empire and arrived in the Arctic ice cap, despite being so weak, he had dared to say that he would challenge Rutherford. Even now, after Linley had returned from the 11th with divine cores, he still dared to say that in the future, he would challenge Linley. Self-confidence. Linley and Olivier were both filled with self-confidence, and they were both extremely hard-working as well. If a person constantly doubted themselves, it would be simply too hard to make a breakthrough. Thank you, Lord Baruch. Desri and the other experts seemed to understand a bit. Baruch said calmly, after having experienced countless life and death experiences in the necropolis of the gods, can it be that you've gained not even a shred of insight? This sort of place, where one is constantly at the border between life and death, can easily allow someone's potential to be unleashed and a breakthrough to be made. Unfortunately, none of you had truly believed in yourselves. Enough. Everyone leave the necropolis of the gods. Baruch said. Linley and the other experts followed Baruch out from the exit he had created, leaving the 10th floor. Outside of the necropolis of the gods was the bottom of the sea. As soon as Linley and the others came out, they discovered that there was one black exit after another leading from the 2nd, 5th, and 10th floors of the necropolis of the gods. Clearly, these three levels had saints present. HRM. War God, High Priest, Dylan, Caesar. Linley instantly noticed the four great deities standing off in the distance. At this moment, there was a large group of experts outside the necropolis of the gods, such as Higginson and the others. Aside from Linley and the other 9 who had remained on the 10th floor, there were nearly 20 or so other experts who had stayed on the 2nd and 5th floors. One of them was a familiar figure. Barker. Linley's eyes instantly turned round, and a look of wild joy appeared on his face. Lord Linley. Barker saw Linley as well, and immediately flew over with surprise and joy. Linley excitedly gave Barker a bear hug. If Barker truly had died, then on the return trip back home, Linley truly would have found it hard to face Gates and the others, as well as Barker's wife and son. Barker, you didn't die. BB flew over to Barker as well with a surprised howl. Barker began to laugh as well. Outside the necropolis of the gods, the experts who knew each other began to engage in conversation, such as the personal disciples of the war god who had been hiding on the 2nd or 5th floor. All of the lucky survivors were here. Barker, how did you manage to escape from the 3rd floor? Linley immediately asked. Barker shook his head. I was very baffled as well. When the BA serpent woke up, he slaughtered many of the saints, and I didn't know if you, Lord Linley, had even managed to flee or not. I couldn't see anything clearly. Linley nodded slightly. Only, after slaughtering all of the saints on the 3rd floor, the BA serpent gave me a whack with his tail. Linley's heart trembled. Although Barker was still alive and perfectly well, that scene was simply terrifying to even contemplate. How could Barker not have died after being struck by the tail of the divine beast, be a serpent? The strange thing was, when the tail of the be-a serpent struck me, it sent me flying back an extremely great distance, and I was totally paralyzed, as though an invisible rope was wrapped around me. When I landed, I found that, as if by coincidence, I fell into the exit to the second floor. Barker, even while telling the story, seemed to find it unbelievable as well. Linley and BB immediately stared, mouths gaping. "Hey there, guys." A playful voice rang out, and a devilish, green-haired youngster suddenly appeared next to Linley and the others. Linley, Barker, and BB immediately looked in astonishment at this nearby green-haired youngster. The three of them had only noticed his presence after he had spoken. "Linley, right?" The devilish green-haired man laughed. "Not bad. You were actually able to successfully get the divine sparks on the 11th floor. You rock, kiddo." As he spoke, he patted Linley on his head. Linley wanted to dodge, but he found that his body couldn't move at all. "Godreal." Linley was shocked. Aside from the war god and the rest of the four, there was another deity-level expert. "Tarasi de Loyoshat, get over here." The distant Beirut called out. The devilish green-haired youth immediately ran over quite obediently, laughing, "Lord Beirut, let's go back to the Yulan continent. It's been so long since I've gone back. I really do miss home." All of the experts looked at the devilish green-haired youth in puzzlement. Who was he? Beirut glanced at the surrounding experts. Calmly, he said, "Let me introduce you. This person is named Tarasi, and quite a few of you have met him before. He was the guardian of the first 11 floors of the Necropolis of the gods, that slumbering divine beast. The be-a serpent. Be-a serpent." Many of the experts were shocked, and when they looked at Tarasi, their eyes were now filled with respect and fear, while deep in their hearts, they secretly felt hatred as well. After all, many experts had been slaughtered by Tarasi. "I know the four of you. I knew Catherine from way back. We're old friends. Oh, this one is O'Brien, and this one is Caesar, right?" Tarasi chortled. O'Brien and Caesar didn't dare to say much. After all, Tarasi was a full god. Linley could tell that this Tarasi should be only now meeting O'Brien and Caesar for the first time, but had met Catherine in the past. "Whoa, Dylan. My dear friend. Your luck is excellent. You actually managed to escape from the Gabados prison. The happiest part of me getting out of there is having a chance to see you. See Mir, we two buddies need to have a nice reunion." As he spoke, Tarasi went over to give Dylan a hug. Dylan, with a frown, moved next to Beirut. Right now, Dylan was not in a good mood, because his second son had died. These lower 11 floors were under the control of Tarasi. However, he knew that Tarasi wasn't able to break the rules. He was able to turn a blind eye to some things, but if he were to intentionally rescue someone on a certain floor, that was not permissible. Even a high god would fall if he violated the rules of the sovereign. "Tarasi, enough," Beirut said calmly, and Tarasi immediately no longer dared to make another sound, standing obediently behind Beirut. Only, he turned his head to wink at Barker. Barker now understood, that the Tarasi in front of him was the be-a serpent. The be-a serpent who had spared his life. "Everyone, prepare to head out and return to the Yulan continent," Beirut said calmly. "Yes, Lord Beirut," all of the experts said in unison. Under Beirut's leadership, Tarasi and the rest of the 5 deities as well as the 30 saints headed back together, journeying back towards the Yulan continent. On this day, it was Yulan calendar's year 10,034, March 4th. Exactly 10 years had passed since Linley and the others had arrived.